Welcome. Great to have each and every one of you here. Council meeting, April the 23rd. We're going to start at 7 o'clock. And again, welcome each of you. As all of you have known, since COVID, we have been able to exercise the experience to allow people to stay at home and dial in and see us and talk to us. And so to those people who may be doing that, welcome. To all of us, please turn off your phone or devices. And for those of you who are at home, please try to control your pets, especially dogs that like to bark. And we will appreciate that. I'm pleased to announce that the council is all here and present and accounted for. As we always do, we start off with a word of prayer. And tonight I'm very pleased to have the pastor of the First Baptist Church here, Pastor Michael Portage, to lead us in prayer. And then following him will be Mr. Matt Bartlett that will lead us in the pledge. So if you can, please stand. Thank you.
Right. Almighty and triune God, you are the creator and sustainer of all things visible and invisible. You are the sovereign, and through your Son, Jesus Christ, you rule and overrule in all the affairs of life. We give you thanks and praise for all your mighty works. You are loving, good, and gracious. Thank you for creating us and sustaining us day by day. Thank you that you made us in your image to exist in community with other people. We thank you for our city. We thank you for our elected officials, the businesses, the churches, the families, and the individuals that make our great city what it is today. Your word tells us that the king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he wills. As our representatives meet for the sake of our community, use your sovereign grace to give them wisdom, insight, and guidance, so their decisions would be holy, just, and righteous in your sight for our benefit and for your glory. Holy Father, hear our prayers, receive our praise, and answer our requests, because we bring them to you in the name of our Son, your Son, Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Matt?
All right, everybody, remain standing. Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor, thank you for that very special prayer. And Matt, thank you for leading us in the pledge. Appreciate that. Tonight is a bittersweet moment because this is the last student reports from the students that you will be hearing from. These are outstanding students and a part of our city and future. And I can assure you that the future is in good hands with the four of these folks. And it's been great to hear their energy and insight and excitement about the schools that they attend and everything that's going on there. I get tired just hearing about it. And yet they do it day in and day out. So after you guys speak, stick around because we want to honor you with a special expression of thanks. So just wanted you to know that. So don't run out, okay? With that, let's start with Charter Oak with Carolyn Riggs. Miss Riggs, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Thompson and fellow City Council members. My name is Caroline Riggs, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share all of the amazing things happening at CO. To begin, in March, the Royal Oak Middle School had an amazing turnout for open house. They hosted the 6th grade basketball tournament where Cedar Grove Elementary came out on top, and there was a St. Patty's Day hangout after school for students to enjoy. Now for my report on Charter Oak High School. Last month, the Charter Oak Sports Medicine team went to Cal State Northridge, where they ranked #1 in the small school division and #1 for the overall competition. Several of our team members were awarded for their individual accomplishments as well. Congratulations to Dr. Matt Simok and his amazing sports medicine program. Additionally, the Charter Oak Auto Club got an immersive experience at the Pomona Fairgrounds as they were up close and personal at the drag races. What a great experience for them. On April 13th, Charter Oak had its prom at the Costa Mesa Promenade, where people could dance, do karaoke, or have caricatures drawn of them. Last week, our clubs sold food at our Spring Club Food Day to raise money for club events. Last Thursday, our seniors began presenting their senior symposium projects and finished up presentations yesterday, where groups got to pick a global issue and research it. Our seniors began working on this project in August, and they've been working hard ever since to secure interviews with prominent people like Mayor Thompson himself and present solutions for problems around the world. This past weekend, the Forestry Club was at Stanislaus National Forest, where they competed in the Forestry Challenge, an academic event for high school students where youth spend 4 days out in the wilderness learning about water management, wildlife conservation, and working in forestry or the environment as a potential career option. Last Friday, our theater opened its spring musical, Mean Girls. Opening weekend was sold out, and so are all of the 4 other shows for this upcoming weekend. This Thursday, our IB and AP programs are hosting an exam kickoff event where students can get together and have desserts with their teachers and ask questions. We wish all of our exam takers the best of luck over the next few weeks. This upcoming Friday, next Friday, our advanced choir will be joining several hundred other students at the LA Master Chorale Choral Festival at Walt Disney Concert Hall. We are all very excited and we cannot wait for such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Thank you, City Council, for giving me the honor to share Charter Oaks events and updates with you every month. It has been such a pleasure and I am so blessed to be a part of the city. Thank you again and I wish you all the best. Have a blessed evening.
Great, thank you.
Mendel, if I may.
Sure,
Carolyn,
please.
Carolyn, before you, sports medicine team? Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Do you know, is it a class that they offer or is it an
It's a-
extracurricular?
It's a class where so like the people that would be out on a field at like a sports game, instead of it being like, I mean, they obviously have like professionals on deck, but it's a lot of student trained of trained students who are trained with how to deal with injuries. Like it's a whole program where I wish I knew more about this. No, you're fine.
I didn't know that existed. That's pretty impressive.
No, yeah, it's a sports medicine program where people can learn a lot, just like they do a lot of athletic training and just about how to handle like sports injuries and sports medicine. So it's a really cool program.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Garcia from GHS. Aiden, welcome.
Hello, thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Thompson and City Council members. My name is Aiden Garcia, a senior at Glendora High School, and this is my report on the activities within our school. After a much-needed and relaxing spring break, seniors kicked off the season with our annual senior rally, an all-senior assembly where students enjoyed a hypnotist show in which some of their classmates participated. In this assembly, our 2024 prom court was also announced. Congratulations to the princes Will Coates, Harrison Dale, Troy Estrada, Jahan Fernando, Logan Green, Ryan McNamara, and Nathan Ono. Next, GHS would like to congratulate the princesses Ella Abbasi, Brooklyn Bruss, Natalia Cole, Charlie Fallon, Mia Rigstad, Christina Viviar, and Zeta von Lutzow. Prom will be held this Saturday, April 27th at Casa Vertigo in Los Angeles. The theme for this year is Met Gala, and over 800 students have bought their tickets to attend. Last week, ASB and Best Buddies held their Action 2.0 and prom for students with unique requirements. This is to ensure all students on GHS campus are included. The new All School Awards event was held last Friday, April 15th, and was a perfect opportunity to recognize students who have achieved all kinds of awards throughout the school year. As students are currently testing and will continue to do so, ASB is holding a week-long event that aims to help students stress less. Yesterday, students were able to receive flowers from a truck set up in the pavilion. Today, toy squishies were handed out for lunch. Tomorrow, coffee will be served and jazz will be played in the pavilion. Thursday, students have the opportunity to show off their dancing skills with Just Dance in the gym. Lastly, on Friday, a petting zoo will be set up on campus for students to relax, view, and pet all sorts of animals. As the school year wraps up, ASB is preparing our final assembly on May 24th, where GHS reflects on the school year and properly sends off its students to a safe and fun summer break. Seniors will also look forward to the remaining events held throughout the month of May, such as the Baccalaureate on May 19th, Senior Sunset May 24th, Grad Walk at the GUSD Elementary Schools May 28th, graduation on May 29th, and Grad Night at Six Flags Magic Mountain on May 31st. Thank you for your time, and I hope you all have a good night.
Great,
you.
thank you. Best of luck. St. Lucy's, Alexa Straight, welcome.
Hi, it's good to be back. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Thompson and esteemed City Council. My name is Alexa Straight, and this is my last student report as a junior. Starting off the month with Easter vacation, Regents were able to enjoy the week off before returning to school the following Tuesday. Throughout the week, our community spent time with family and friends, both near and far. Upon return, we celebrated the days leading up to prom with a Spirit Week. Some of our themes were Celebrity Day, Opposites Day, and Princess Day. April 11th was a day of awaited endings and new beginnings. This is our Easter Mass. Here we blessed the congregation and celebrated the season of the risen Christ. This was the seniors' last Mass with our entire community. That same night, we had our freshman information meeting where our new families gathered to learn more about the school and what next year will look like. With the help of ambassadors, families heard the explanation of rules, expectations, plans for the upcoming school year, as well as their requested courses. April 14th was the Tri-School Candlelit Garden Prom. St. Lucy's, Damien, and Pomona Catholic invited juniors and seniors to Rancho for the long-anticipated event. Students enjoyed the dance floor, pools tables, crafts tables, photos, and in and out. Congratulations to our prom court, the King and Queens. Despite the rain, everyone looked amazing and had a fantastic night. To spare tired students and teacher chaperones on Monday, Lucy's had an asynchronous day following prom to rest and recover. This past week was the St. Lucy's musical, Totally 90s. Themed as a top hits radio show, we applauded our students as they sang and danced to songs such as Jump Around, My Heart Will Go On, Just a Girl, and I'll Be There For You. We had a fantastic turnout with family and friends from all over visiting for the 3 nights. Opening night was even a social event for committed and future regents. This was a chance for younger girls to visit the campus and talk to current students before watching the musical. Sports are in the home stretch as we wrap up the week. Softball has closed out their home games yesterday with a great turnout at senior night. From not having a team last year, we are so proud of the players and everything they accomplished this season. Today was prelims for both track and swim. Many of our athletes auto-qualified for league and CIF, and we saw many great performances from all girls in all events. Congrats to the girls who we will see compete at finals this Thursday and Friday. Throughout the month of May, St. Lucy's is preparing for a lot of big events, especially AP testing and graduation. The whole school is in motion as advanced placement courses prepare for their tests. ASB class elections are in the works and seniors watch the graduation countdown. Thank you, City Council, for everything you do, for the city, for the people, and for us students. I'm honored to be given this opportunity to represent my school, and I'm beyond grateful for your undivided attention and true care for our reports. It really does mean a lot. Again, I'm honored to be here, and I can't wait to be back next year. Thank you for everything, but until then, stay safe and God bless.
Great, thank you. Lastly, but not least, Mr. Ho from Whitcomb. Sylvan,
Hi.
welcome, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I know I don't have amazing prom speech as they did because we had ours a month early because
Yeah,
we
you
graduate
did.
earlier.
But you looked really good going to prom because you
Think so?
wore
Oh,
what
you should have seen me.
Yeah.
Like my whole outfit after you guys' suggestions was great. I had
Was
a
it?
different necklace on. It was like I
There
think
you
I have
go.
one
All
more.
right.
I had like rings and I had an earring on too. I'm not gonna wear that here, but
Oh, yeah.
it's fine. So there's no anything about prom on here, but I'll give you a gist of what happened. So we had a DJ and this took place at Glendora Country Club. I've never been there before, but it was awesome and wonderful since it was 80s themed, as you guys don't like. There was a lot of things from the 80s, so there was a lot of 80s music and there's like Rubik's cubes everywhere for some reason. The food was great. My hair was in a mullet. I lost my voice. It was wonderful. My friend Adam Orman won prom king, and prom queen happened to be Gwen Martinez, who
Great.
is the representative of what's it called? The school board meetings.
Good,
So
good.
yeah. Now I'll start off with the events on campus. So we had Dr. Prince, who is also from the school board meetings, visit our campus on Monday. Dr. Prince toured all classrooms to observe all the students and give suggestions on areas of growth that we would need. We also appreciate all the school, anyone who supports our district um, from our school. So our leadership students will be volunteering at Shepherd's Pantry this Wednesday, which is tomorrow, and Rubel Castle, I don't know what that is, which is on Friday. We are very proud of our leadership students for doing all the work that they do at our campus. And then on Friday, oh wait, so every week now we have like 1 or 2 spirit days, and like, man, it sucked when I was like the only one that showed up in beach clothes. I was wearing swim trunks, like, come on. So this Friday we have Superhero Spirit Day. So pretty sure you dress up like a superhero of some sort that you like. And we're gonna talk about our superhero at Whitcomb, which is Mr. Ralph Love, which is the soldier I told you about who's going
Yes,
to
uh-huh.
deploy. So he's gonna be on a 9-month leave, and he's gonna be stationed in Africa. And apparently he was in Texas this whole time, and now he's going to Africa. So I wish him the best of luck, and I wish he'll see this. Friday, Whitcomb will also have administration that will be attending the California Constitution. Wait, is that what it says? No, California Continuation Education Association. We hope to receive valuable information about how to improve our programs and support students at Whitcomb. Next topic, the worst thing ever, testing. Ugh. So this week, our 11th graders are testing in math. Goal elementary and middle school students will be testing in English, math, and science. So we currently have 82% of our Whitcomb students completing the ELA tests. We're continuing to have all 11th grade students finish their tests. Students that arrive or are actually there for the test receive like free little goodie bags, but they're like food. So like today I got Fruit Loops because I was offered it. They have like Cheez-Its, they bought snacks. I'm pretty sure this comes out of the teachers' pockets. And they also PTSA also said that they would donate some as well, and they would also donate like gift cards to students. So they would do like a little raffle thing. They give you a ticket if you show up, and they throw in a bucket, they shake it up, they pull one out, and then you can get gift cards for Raising Cane's, Chick-fil-A, or Carl's Jr. And we appreciate this from PTSA. And attendance. So attendance, we have 12% better attendance than last year, which is actually really good.
It is good.
Our Wildcat of the Week happens to be Zachary Solomon, who has been chosen for his great attendance, which is on time, not late to class, and he's there every single day. All of our Wildcat students will receive a goodie bag and a $5 gift card to Starbucks, as well as a Whitcomb t-shirt, which I never won.
Hmm.
Thank you for having me talk about this, and this is the end.
Great, thank you. Would you join me and give them all just a round of applause? So what I'd like to do is invite the 4 of you up here. We're going to take a group photo op, and I have a certificate and a goodie bag to give to each of you. Okay? I don't know. I did not make the the goodie bags, but I don't know. So come on up. Together. Actually, get 2 bags. Right? So So you guys are the honored guests. We'll do a photo. Yeah, is this gonna work, or do we need to scoot them up and up be.
Let's scoot in a little bit more.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Hey, best of luck. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Jack, good
Thank you
deal.
so much.
Thanks for always
Thank
being.
you.
Good job.
No, I'll see you guys one more time at Bright.
you.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah, we
go?
don't-
Thank you. So
Great.
good job. Keep it up.
Get your bags there.
Good job. See you next year.
Right. Thank you.
Good luck.
Absolutely. You'll be there, right? Yeah. I missed the brunch this time. You don't have to go.
We don't very much again. All right, well, thank you to each one of them and parents and friends that were always here to support them. It was always good to make time to hear what they had to say. All right, anybody on the council want to reorder or add to the agenda? Seeing and hearing none, then we will let the agenda stand as is. Public comment period. This is where public can come and express their opinions. Mr. City Attorney, let me ask you this. I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. So we have 3 public hearings. And the rule has always been, I think, that either you can speak then on the item or you can speak now. But is that, so I'm trying to clarify just to make sure that there's order.
Yeah, we prefer that you speak on the topic of the public hearing during the public comment
Okay.
period for that hearing. If they happen to speak during this public comment period on a topic that's covered later, I don't think the city has historically prohibited that, but they can.
Okay, all right, great. I just want to make sure that we were clear on that. So I have cards, and if you are here to speak and you haven't filled out a card, I would encourage you to come up to the podium here and grab a card and give that to our city clerk. Stay within the appointed time that's up on the screens. Direct your thoughts to me, the mayor. And those that might be on Zoom, once we have everybody here speak, then we will come to, you use the raised hand icon and we will ask you to speak too. So with that, let me start out. Mr. Matt Bartlett. Thank you for leading us in the pledge, Matt.
You're welcome, Mayor Thompson. Thank you for having me. Thank you, City Council. So I'm here tonight to talk about murder. Okay, Glendora Welfare Association has got our 8th annual fundraising event coming up the Saturday, May 4th from 6 to 9 p.m. right here at Bidwell Forum. This is a great event. We've done it now for 7 years in the past. Other events have been at Rubel Castle. This year, we're going to do it here at the library, and it's going to be Murder on the British Express. So for those who like murder mystery dinners, we're going to be served by Spaghetti Eddies that night. We're going to have wine tasting throughout the evening. There'll be dessert and, of course, the show. There'll be lots of prizes in that you can purchase raffle tickets for and win those prizes. And the best thing of all is all the funds from this event go back into the community. Glendora Welfare, we've been around since 1958. We help Glendora residents, Glendora families who are having emergency situations 9 times out of 10. They're having a hard time paying their rent. Maybe money's a little tight. They can't put enough food on the table for the month. Well, that's where Glendora Welfare steps up and gives that helping hand to them. The goal is to help them whenever we can, keep them safe. And if by chance there is something that they need a little bit more help, whether it's financial, whatever, we are affiliated with other organizations that we can certainly counsel them, refer them to for additional help throughout the year and keeping them safe. Okay, so it's a great organization. We used to be a part of HUD, and for many years, we handed out the great big government cheese rolls, if for some of you remember those. So we used to be funded through HUD. Now we're funded through individuals like yourself, individuals here in attendance tonight. Your generosity and events like this, Murder on the British Express, is how we take care of our citizens. So we would love the support. You can certainly go to our website, www.glendorawelfare.com, and you can purchase your tickets through them. You can also visit me in my office here in the village, Hilltop Real Estate. We can certainly help you purchase those tickets there. And thank you for all your support, and thanks for having me out here tonight.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Fred Sparling, please. Good evening, Fred.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm speaking about item number 11. And we at Classic Coffee have been very grateful to the city of Glendora and how you've stepped up to help our businesses. The city council and city employees have our gratitude for the help they've given us. I'm sure you're aware of the record high inflation that has hit all of us. What you may not know is that wholesale prices have gone up higher and faster than retail prices. Every month of this year, we've experienced an increase in our cost. On May 1st, 2 more of our major suppliers are increasing their prices. Business insurance has had the highest cost increase I've ever experienced due to the increase in crime. Even though Glendora remains to be one of the safest cities, thanks to our wonderful police department, insurance companies do not take that into consideration. We have seen 2 minimum wage increases, thanks to our wonderful state of California, that have passed in the first third of this year. Even though the wage increases do not affect us directly, they indirectly affect us, because we have to attract and keep our great employees. We have all heard of companies going out of business or closing locations, some because of the economic factors, others, like the In-N-Out in Oakland, for the safety of their employees and their customers. This is not an easy time for businesses. I ask, when you consider the increase in fees, you take these factors into consideration. As for the parklets, we clean our parklet every day, just about every day. We employ a monthly pest control service to take care of any infections or whatever. As far as food falling through the slats of the parklet, the distance between the boards is only 1/4 of an inch. Not much food is going to fall through those. One thing that would really help is if the gardening services would blow the leaves and trash away from the parklets instead of toward them and underneath them. We realize part of the outdoor dining fee has to do with the electricity which we're able to use for from the outlets in the tree wells. We ask these charges for our LED lights we have strung on our railing be fair and equitable. The parklets and the other outdoor dining spaces have added so much to make the downtown a vibrant destination for our community and our customers, as well as the customers of other businesses on the avenues. We're so grateful to have served our community for 20 years. We celebrate our 20th anniversary on May 18th and look forward to the next 20 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred. Ms. Amaya from Athens. Welcome. We appreciate all that you do to keep our cities clean.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Danae Amaya. I'm a Director of Government Affairs for Athens Services, and I'm excited to obviously serve the city of Glendora. It was great to see many of you at the Earth Day Festival on Saturday, so very nice to be back. So I just wanted to communicate some information. We have our Household Hazardous Waste event in collaboration with the city on Saturday, April 27th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the City of Glendora Corporate Yard. So
also just wanted to make sure that our community is reminded of this event. And there might be some questions in the future on what they can bring and can't bring. So I would be happy to answer those questions in the future. So feel free to reach out at damaya@athensservices.com and we can help you guys out. Just wanted to say thank you so much and look forward to seeing many of you on Saturday. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not going to do well with this next name, so I want to apologize right up front. Mia Bang. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I don't want to impugn your name in
Yes.
any way,
Yes.
so maybe you can say it in a better way than I can.
Good evening, everybody. And today I'm going to speak on behalf of two businesses that were located on Glendora Avenue, a sushi and I that's been on the avenue for 16 years and Priscilla for 18 years as the two owners here. We got a letter mailed that today will be discussed the increasing fee for the outdoor seatings that we already paying for. And we've been told since the restaurants and other business have park links or provided park links, they taking a lot of space for the parking lot and they also using the city light stand. Because of that, the fee will be increased. But here to say that we disagree with that. Since not all of the businesses will provided parking. For us, unfortunately, city haven't helped us even a bit once since COVID started. As we told, we were denied with any help that we located on the stop sign, which is used to be a cross street before the parks were built, and even now. Despite that, both of us and some other restaurant today that they probably didn't come today, but we all discussed it between us that we only have 4 tables when other who take a big parking lot and stay, they have over 20 seats. And they using that, we don't feel like it's a fair enough when we will have to pay exactly same price as an other business owners have to pay when we don't have this. We don't have apartments. We don't use this city electricity. And we just here to give this concern to you guys that we're really disappointed because we trying really hard to survive. And it was not a joke, just like Classic Coffee guy told us. And a really big issue with the parking lot. Since this 3 years, not only the business went down, everybody's business with economical crisis, but it's also a problem with the location. There's no more parking. The parking that used to be now it's 2 parks that block in the districts. Now the parking lots, there's 7 huge parking lots that taken by restaurant and it's 6 parkings for individual car each. And because of that, a lot of employees don't have where to park. Employees they park on the street, they get their car stolen. This been a major problem for last year. And the customer been called to the phone numbers of the restaurant and other businesses and been told, same as in the hair salons and other businesses, been told, sorry, I cannot come. We've been scrolling around 15 minutes the block, but we don't have anywhere parking. So the parking is a big issue. And if you guys would do something better for us is just to have that thought in your mind that not everybody can pay the same. It would be not fair for everybody to pay same fee when we have a different abilities. So thank you so much for that.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. The last card that I have is a very unique card. Russell Salvador, I think is what it is. Russell is an international student, and this is a part of a project that he's doing at school. So Russell?
Hi, good evening. My name is Russell Salvador. I have made a petition getting about 50 constituents to sign it. My petition calls for changing how the land is zoned in Glendora, as 93.3% of the land is zoned for single-family housing. By decreasing this percentage and dedicating more of the land for multi-residential housing, it can decrease the high cost of living within Glendora. As I've seen, it's about 54% higher than the national average. And the reason for this push is for the prevention of poverty within Glendora. Throughout my research, I have found that there are many factors for why people go into poverty, one of these reasons being the high cost of living. As Glendora and other cities within LA County face an increasingly high cost of living, it is important to stop this increase to prevent further poverty from occurring within these cities. I would hate to see my neighbors having to move out of Glendora or fall into poverty because they are unable to pay for their living costs. This change in Glendora zoning regulations, allowing for more multi-residential housing, can help combat the high cost of living. This going through can also help ease the situation of those already living in poverty within Glendora. With more housing, comes more income going into utilities and housing costs to decrease the overall amount that needs to be paid by everyone in Glendora. Thank you for hearing me out.
Russell, thank you. And the petition, do you have that?
Yes.
So just give that to our city clerk. We appreciate that and we'll process that. And thank you and best of luck in your work,
Yeah.
school work. And I hope you get an A from your prof. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Those are all the cards that I have. Madam Clerk, is there anybody on Zoom that was wishing to speak?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Hearing and seeing none, I will close our public comment period. Excuse me, and bring it back to council for council reports. Michael, anything?
Yes. Adam, can you speak
Thank
to the last, you don't want to? Excuse me? No, public comment about rezoning, that we've rezoned for about 2,600 homes.
Sure. So we spoke, would you like me to go over the historical changes that we've made or what it is? So
Keep it short.
yeah, I think as the speaker indicated, the Glendora is predominantly multifamily housing and has been so since the expansion and annexations through, mostly through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so city council is part of its multi-year housing process needs to look at a housing element where the state tells SCAG and SCAG tells cities how many units they have to zone. The higher the more units allowed in a certain area, the more likelihood it is the city may achieve affordable housing units. And so there are certain regulations. So the city council on multiple occasions over the past 8 years has rezoned some properties for increased height number of units in various areas, predominantly around Arrow Highway and Route 66. This last time the city had to account for 2,600-ish new units. And so before that, it was less. So the city does its part as the state of California requires us to do to rezone certain areas to try to get more affordability. I would also add, as this body knows, and as we've discussed publicly, we're currently looking to potentially look at some surplus property, which does require an affordable component to that. And additionally, the city has purchased Dale, which is a 2-acre site where there will be an affordable housing project of some sort, and the city council will wade through some of those requirements at that time. So definitely hear you loud and clear. We always, I think as we've shown, the income in the city, a lot of retired individuals is relatively stagnant in some areas. And so those individuals that bought their houses a long time ago are in much better position than someone who bought a house more recently. And that's pretty equitable across the entire state of California. So we're definitely cognizant of that and aware of that. And this council has looked for policy decisions and options to look at how to reduce the costs of housing across the board.
Great, thank you for that. Can I get someone from PD to come on up and talk about the EV bikes, scooters, and unlicensed golf carts?
Well, hello.
What are we doing to monitor that? And is there some state legislation that might be coming down?
We are going to support legislation that will further define them. As technology has advanced, so has manufacturers to circumvent the laws and regulations and the current vehicle code definitions that are in place presently. How we're handling it here at the local level is we're starting at the bottom and engaging with the school district. That started today with our police articulation meeting, talking about rules of the road, what's defined as a legal vehicle to be on the road versus something that's more of a plaything, where they can be operated, where they can't. And then we encourage the public that if they encounter something like that on the roadway, to contact us so that we can take some enforcement action. Any kind of traffic related issue, we're bound by what the vehicle code defines things. And sure as manufacturers will find a way to sell something, they'll find a way to circumvent the code based upon horsepower, speed, mechanism of, power delivery. Used to be in the back in the old days, remember the punch scooters that circumvented the law because they had pedals and you could pedal them, which meant that you could get it going under human power, and then the gasoline engine would take over and you wouldn't have to register it. It was considered a bicycle and you wouldn't need a special license for it. Electric manufacturers have found that same loophole. So we're working on it.
Great. So you're being proactive then.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So this last Thursday, we celebrated Dr. Cliff Hamlop at Citizen of the Year. It was a great event. And our mayor went ahead and sent out a proclamation or recognition. It was a fun event and we were all in attendance. So I just want to have a shout out on behalf of us to say congratulations and to Cliff. The next event was Karen, myself, Mendel, and David were there at the Roaring Twenties at the Women's Club. It was a fun event. I had to restrain our mayor from wanting to go on the conga line, but it was a lot of fun. These women know how to party. I just want to have a shout out to them. It was their annual fundraiser, and they did an amazing job with that. And I believe that is all that I have at the moment. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Michael, thank you. And Gary, do you want to counter where you were that night?
Yeah, well, you guys were partying the night away. I was at a meeting where we were discussing the reopening of Highway 39. If you're not aware, Highway 39 is basically Azusa Canyon Road. It goes up through Azusa, and years ago, it used to take you all the way over to Wrightwood, or actually to Highway 2 and then to Wrightwood. I was having a conversation with my wife about a time that I had used that road, and then I realized it actually closed in 1978, which is when we moved here, which means I have never driven the road all the way through. But it was pretty interesting. The Caltrans is the one moving forward with this, and they're right now in the public hearing process to take a look at the options of what they may want to do with it. The meeting I was at, it was pretty interesting to me, the number of people that opposed the reopening of the highway. And I can understand opposing it due to the cost, because it's going to be outrageously expensive to build this highway. Anytime you build something through the mountain, it's going to be. But the two themes of the people that did not want to see it reopened were, number one, this is my mountain. I hike and play up here, and I don't want other people making it easy for other people to get up here, which is not a good reason. And the other one, which I really enjoyed, is the people from Wrightwood did not want the crazies from Los Angeles having it easier for them to get up there into their mountains. And that one I can understand. But they're still working on it, and they've got 4 options of what they're going to do. Option number 1 is do nothing. Right now, the road is passable. You can actually drive through it, but they have to maintain it on a regular basis. And it's only, they use it for emergency access and for maintenance and things by Caltrans. So the public cannot drive through the road right now. So one of the options is to do nothing and continue to just push the boulders down the side of the hill when they fall down and block the road. The second one is to build it, have it go ahead and rebuild the road, but utilize it only for emergency access and for maintenance, which means it would be like many of the roads up in the mountains where there's gates on them as we drive up in there and you see the gates closed. Well, they're not open all the time, but in certain instances, they could be opened and people would be able to drive through. The third option is actually to rebuild the road, but keep it closed to general traffic. What they would do is they would open it up to non-motorized vehicles and to hiking. So this particular option would allow for, there would be parking lots that would be built at the end of by Crystal Lake where it is right now, where it ends. And then you would be able to hike on up into the road. It'd be a nice hiking area. And you'd be able to go biking and stuff like that without the fear of motorized vehicles. But then again, it could still be open for emergencies and for maintenance like they, like they would with option number 2. And then option number 4 is to open it completely. Rebuild it, make it a highway that works again. And it was pretty interesting to watch the engineering as to what they're planning on doing if they choose to reopen it completely. Kathleen, if you could put that picture up there, the plan is to rebuild the road, because you think if they rebuild it, the mountain's just going to fall down on it again, and it's going to collapse. But they're actually looking into, and they've got this engineered, that they're going to rebuild a majority of it through a series of viaducts, which is similar to the picture you see up here, that it's actually going to be an elevated highway. And so if there are landslides that come down, they would come down and not actually wipe out the road. They would go under the road. It would also allow, because there's a concern of animals, because there are still bighorn sheep in our mountains, crossing the road and maybe being injured by vehicles. So if it does move forward, this is the process that they're going to use to actually rebuild the road. So it's pretty exciting to see that this is being discussed seriously now. At this point, it's actually still, they're taking input from residents. So if anybody has an opinion or an idea or questions, the website is open through May 11th. If you want to go on and have your opinions heard. Or if you just want to throw an idea at them, because nothing is set in stone yet. They have said that no matter what it is that they do, and unless they do nothing, which they can start doing that immediately, but the construction on the rebuilding of it probably is not going to be happening or not starting until about 2030. So it's still a little bit away before they actually start working on this. But it's an important aspect for the entire region here, because it will bring additional traffic, bring additional people, but it will also give all of us better access to the mountains. So that's all I got. Thanks, man.
Great. Thank you, Gary.
Mr. Boyer?
Yeah.
If they were to proceed with this concept today, did they have a guesstimate of the dollars involved?
It's going to be more than the fix of Glendora Avenue, but less than the bullet train.
Okay.
That's a great answer.
Honestly, a number that was thrown around was $1 billion to rebuild this.
1 billion?
Billion.
Well, that's better than 100 billion that the Ranger Express, the Raisin Express is over budget right now. So that's
But until they
encouraging.
make a decision and until you see what the cost is going to be at the time they start construction, they really don't know.
All right. Karen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to remind everyone that tomorrow is Denim Day. Denim Day always falls on the last Wednesday of April, because the month of April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Denim Day is a day of action and awareness in which people are encouraged to wear denim to combat victim blaming and educate others about sexual violence. So I'd encourage you tomorrow to join millions of people across the world that will wear jeans with a purpose, help support survivors, and educate yourself about all the forms of sexual violence. And also, Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask that tonight we adjourn our meeting in memory of Dan Wilshire. Dan was a longtime resident of Glendora. He was a music teacher for the Glendora Unified School District for many years, led summer youth orchestra at Citrus College, led the combined interfaith choir in Glendora, was the choir director at First Christian Church for nearly 3 decades. He volunteered in many community organizations. And for many people who may not know the name, you would recognize his voice many times at community events, whether the 9/11 service or Police Memorial Day, booming out the national anthem or other music. He was a veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard, and if you ever saw him and talked with him, he never met a stranger. So I would ask that tonight we adjourn in his memory.
And that is so true, and we certainly will. We express our regrets to his wife and friends. David.
Thank you, Mayor. As we've learned tonight, the month started off last week with a couple of great celebrations. Certainly the month of May is looking to be one of great opportunity to get out, see the community activities and events. We have 4 high schools in our region that are going to graduate new folks, new adults out into the world. Go celebrate their successes and just the great things coming along. You know, Mother's Day, May is of action-packed spring season of wonderful events. Let's get out and enjoy them. Thank you.
David, thank you. I'd like to just say a couple of things. Earth Day, we celebrated that on Saturday. Finkbeiner Park was where it was moved, and it was a tremendous day. I would hope that that would be a permanent site. I don't know if it will be or not, but it just felt like Earth Day with the grass and the oak trees and everything. And I just want to give a huge shout out to all of the city staff. And thank you to each and every one. There were things here though. You could come by and drop off your oil and your paint and shredding. Am I missing anything else? And I understood that there was a line around the corner down to the post office, people wanting to do that. So staff did just a wonderful job of celebrating the earth and celebrating the city which we live in. So Adam, is there anything that you want to add to that, or
I would just say,
correct me on?
no, that's a perfect acknowledgement and appreciate that. As it relates to the location with the challenges we have with the Bidwell and the library, some of the structural issues, the event will continue to be majorly held in Finkbeiner. So
Great. Last thing is the mayor's prayer breakfast. I have tickets here. And you know, since it's the mayor's prayer breakfast, you don't have to pay me now. You can come up and I'll give you a ticket. Now, if you welch on that, you and the big guy have got to, work that out, right? So it's going to be a great day. Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. I know that some of you don't think the sun is up at that hour, but it is. It's going to be a great day, a great morning, encouragement. Food is going to be great. A country club is where it's held from 7 to 8:45. Brian Clay, many of you know him. He lived here. His family lived here. His kids went to the school here. Olympic champion is going to be there to, speak. So if you want to come, please come. There are some seats left and would love to have you there. So thank you. All right. With that, Adam or Danny, anything that you need to say? Okay. All right. With that, we will move on to special items. Tonight, Gary is going to talk about a very special group in town, the celebration of the 30th year of the Library Friends Foundation. What a wonderful group they are. So Gary, it's yours.
Hey, thanks, Mendel. It is amazing how many volunteer organizations we have in town that support a variety of different things that we do. And the Library Friends Foundation is one of the most active, and they bring the community together on a number of different occasions. So tonight, we would like to recognize them with a proclamation that reads, whereas the mission of the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation is to support our library's programs, services, and cultural events by raising funds and sharing the library's commitment to lifelong learning and the discovery of new ideas. And whereas the Friends Foundation recognizes our library as the heart of our community and financially supports its efforts to provide citizens of all ages and backgrounds with the resources they need to succeed and thrive. And whereas through the efforts of the many board members, volunteers, and community supporters, the Friends Foundation has dedicated 30 years in supporting the library through the giving of their time, talent, and resources. And whereas the Friends Foundation understands the importance of a well-funded library and advocates to ensure that the Glendora Public Library has the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of free services to all ages, including access to print and electronic materials, innovative online and streaming services, cultural and special events, and programs for all ages that inspire reading, learning, and growing. And whereas the City of Glendora expresses its sincere appreciation for the Library Public for the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation as it celebrates its 30th birthday and the organization's efforts in consistently supporting and serving the residents of our community. And now therefore be it resolved that we, the City Council of the City of Glendora, do hereby proclaim April 23rd, 2024 as Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation Day and encourage all residents to join with the Friends Foundation in support of the Glendora Public Library and to express our community's appreciation for all they do to make our great library even better. In witness whereof, the mayor has hereunto set forth his hand and caused the city seal of the City of Glendora to be affixed this 23rd day of April 2024. And here to accept this proclamation is Maggie Laura and Kathy Boyer, the president of the foundation. Thanks. Who wants to speak?
All right. It is a joy to be here with so many library and foundation supporters and friends. The foundation has a continued commitment to serving the public and serving Glendora community. And it's an easy job when you have a great library and highlighting the programs and services that they provide. Janet Stone and her team doing a tremendous job in meeting the needs of the community so that each of us can live our best lives. And whether it's experiencing some of the events that they have or exploring all the access to resources. And it's one of the few places throughout the city that everyone of every age and background can have access to free services. And so it's our joy to celebrate that, and we'll have activities throughout the year so you can join in the celebration as well.
Okay. I just want to say, I don't know if the community realizes that we, the city runs the library, not the County of Los Angeles. And we are very thankful and blessed and grateful that we do have the city that and the foundation that helps support that and keeps that going for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And we are extremely blessed by what we have and the investment that everybody puts into it. And Maggie, we thank you for the leadership that you give, and Janet Stone, who's sitting on, the back. Thank you for the leadership that you also give and your amazing team. So thank you.
Mendel, I have to interrupt before
Absolutely,
they get
sure.
away. I think maybe Maggie wanted to do a plug for Night on the Plaza, but I'll do it for you if you'd like. But on save the date, July 13th, 2024 this year, Night on the Plaza, the theme is going to be Fiesta Caliente. So no conga line. Good.
That's good.
But everybody be there, July 13th.
Great, thank you. All right, our next one is responding to and honoring and celebrating our city clerk. It is a very important job within the life of our city. And Michael is going to read something about them and proclaim a very special week for them. Michael?
Thank you, Mendel. A lot of folks don't realize what the city clerk's office really does. I just kind of jotted down a few notes here. They do passport services, Freedom of Information Act request, interact with the public when they need information or direction, document control. The agendas for tonight, they put those together. They manage our council meetings, and they also manage us to a degree with all the filings that we have to do and all the requests that we have, the pictures that I had up earlier today. They manage to get that on the agenda and put that out there. They do an awful lot for us, and they're kind of behind the scenes. You're looking at us as we run through this meeting, but the city clerk's office makes all this possible. So it's with great honor that I read this proclamation. The office of the professional municipal clerk at this time honor and a vital part of the local government exists throughout the world. And whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens and the local government bodies and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks, keep wanting to use that word, have pledged to serve the mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal services to all. Whereas the professional municipal clerk service as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through the participation in the education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the Office of Professional Municipal Clerks. Now, therefore, Mendel Thompson, the mayor of Glendora, does recognize the week of May 5th through May 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extends appreciation to our professional municipal clerks, Kathleen R. Sessman, and all the professional municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. And Lorena and Roxanne, you're both going to come on up and present this to you. So how are you going to get in here and take your own picture? Come on, you have to be here. Can someone take the picture, please?
I got the picture.
You're the head trouble.
Same here.
All right. Thank you.
Take lead.
Oh, trust me, she can have it.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. It's a joy, privilege, and an honor to stand here before you tonight. On behalf of our clerk team, we thank you for this honorary recognition. This year marks the 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week. As municipal clerks, we work diligently to ensure the smooth functioning of our local government. We serve as the keeper of democracy and play a pivotal role in the administration of elections and safeguarding the integrity of our democratic process. Beyond elections, we serve as the custodians of public records such as meeting minutes, ordinances, and resolutions, ensuring that Glendora's municipal records are readily accessible for future reference. We ensure compliance with legal and ethical standards, including local, state, and federal laws. We serve as the bridge that provides transparency between elected officials, government agencies, and the public, coordinating meetings with good tunes before every meeting, disseminating information, and facilitating public participation. We are lifelong learners and historians of our community, the go-to resource for government officials and public on administrative practices and regulations. Lastly, we serve as passport acceptance agents, accepting and executing passport applications for adult, children, and minors. We appreciate and thank Recreation and Human Services for being part of our team to help us succeed in this area of our responsibilities, and invite anyone that needs a passport to give us a call. The City of Glendora has a thriving team of unsung heroes who are committed and have dedicated their time to bettering our community. Let us recognize and appreciate the important contributions every one of you makes every day. We thank the City Council, our City Manager, Assistant City Manager, Deputy City Manager, City staff, and those who work behind the scenes, our digital media team, Craig Gill, Greg Morton, Lindsay McNeil, our City Clerk team, Jesus Escobedo, Lorena Cordova, and myself, and of course, our one-of-a-kind City Clerk, Kathleen Sessman. Our dedication to democracy, record-keeping, communication, compliance, and continuous learning is vital to the well-being of our community. We invite the community to stop by the city clerk's office Monday, May 6th through Thursday, May 9th, to dive into Glendora's history, understanding the role of a city clerk, and having some fun treats. We are honored to be serving the Glendora community and look forward to serving for many years to come. Thank you. And so, Kathleen, if you could put down the next slide. So for the week, we have flyers out, and we have different events going on, and you will have that during our working hours, of course, and you can see it right in front of our office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And don't miss on Monday the 6th, Jolt of Coffee. And I have to say, they're pretty well known for their snacks and candies. And I know the staff who are here know that to be true. So Friday the 9th, or Thursday the 9th, make sure that you stop by. So thank you for all of the work that you do. Okay, we will move into item number 4. We have 4, 5, and 6 that are public hearings. That means exactly what they are. They're public hearings, and you will be able to speak to the matter at hand on each one of these if you choose to, both in-house and if you're on Zoom. So the first one is a recommendation to our city council on a tentative track map and a plan review for 46 townhomes at 1201-1215 on Arrow, and project file number PLN 23-0015. And Natalie is here to share with us, and I will open the public hearing right now. And Natalie will be the first one to speak, and then the applicant, if they're here and if they choose to, you can come up and speak, and then the public will be able to have a chance to speak. So that's the way that this will work. So I just wanted you to know that. Natalie, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight's request is for a project located at 1201 to 1215 East Arrow Highway, west of Valley Center Avenue. The site consists of 4 lots that were previously developed with residential units that have not been in use in over 5 years, and agricultural uses that have not been in use in decades. The application for this project consists of the following: a tentative tract map to subdivide the land to create 46 residential condominiums, a development plan review for the project's development plans, and the CEQA notice of exemption. This aerial shows the site, including the existing structures. The proposed site plan consists of 2 driveways that meet at the rear of the property where the guest parking will be located. The driveways traverse the development where they will access all units and their garages. There will be 8 buildings consisting of a total of 46 units and a common open space area at the center of the project to include amenities such as benches, tables, patio covers, and such. You can get a better picture here of the site. This is their proposed landscape plan. There are 5 different floor plans proposed within the development that vary from 2 to 3 bedrooms. All floor plans consist of 3 stories with garages on the ground floor. Floor plans 1, 2, and 4 will also include a bedroom on the ground floor. This is a street view rendering of the proposed development. The architecture is a contemporary style. The elevations are nicely articulated and carefully detailed with exterior elements that include white and blue color stucco, gray wood horizontal stucco, contrasting color details in white, dark gray, and crimson, and dark gray canopies, dark brown trellises and gates, and brick veneer. The project complies with various goals and policies in the city's general plan, land use and housing elements. On April 2nd, the Planning Commission reviewed the project and voted to recommend approval to the council. And the project was noticed in the St. Gabriel Valley Examiner, and notices were mailed to residents on April 11th. Staff recommends the approval of the proposed subdivision and the project plans, and I'm available if you have any questions, and the applicant is also here.
Natalie, thank you for that. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
And do they want to speak? They have a 10-minute time frame, so welcome, sir. Glad to have you here.
Just wanted to introduce myself. I'm John Abel of Abel Halou Homes. We're a local company. We have an office at Covina. And we've developed property mostly in the San Gabriel Valley over the last 30 years or so. And actually I grew up around here. I grew up in West Covina and really like this area. And we've worked with the staff over the last year and a half or so to try to come up with the best plan for the property, and we think we've done that. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. I currently have 2 cards and I'll get going on those. Linda Moore, you're here. Please welcome. And you have the allotted time that's up on the screen. Welcome. Thank you, Linda.
My concern, I live next door to this proposed plan, and my concern is the traffic. Where are they all going to go? Everyone's going to have to go out and turn left. However, I do see that the people that are in that small strip mall, they come out and they make illegal U-turns. There's a median there. I just don't know what the traffic's going to be like. It's very hard for me to get out of my driveway right now, let alone having possibly over 90 cars more.
Okay.
So that's my concern.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
And just so that everybody knows, when there's a public comment period, we don't respond right now. We will listen to you. We'll close it and then we'll get back. So please note we'll probably address that. Next one is Steve Thomas. Steve, are you here?
Had a nice chat with John.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Those are all of the cards that I have. Madam Clerk, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to speak?
Yes, we have one hand up for Zoom.
Okay. Please use your raised hand and the clerk will alert you when you're live, and you'll be able to speak and we'll be able to hopefully hear what you have to say.
So iPhone, if you can please state your name and you can begin speaking.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm assuming this is a high density build, and I have a question. What is the FAR of this property? And I heard you said comments or questions will be answered by staff and council at the end, which I'm fine with. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Madam Clerk, are there others that are on Zoom that would wish to speak?
No, Mayor.
Okay. All right, then we will bring it back to council, and I as I'm reading kind of the guidance, this is the time for John, if you want to speak to any of the 2 questions that were raised, the traffic, and Natalie, you can probably explain what FAR is, but maybe John, you might want to give some guidance on the traffic question.
On the traffic for the tentative map, when we presented it, we had a traffic study completed, and it was submitted to the city and to Los Angeles County Department of Public Works and approved by both of them. One thing that we are required to do, and one of the conditions of approval, is to prepare a line of sight study so that to avoid any problems getting in or out of the project.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Natalie, do you want to answer what FAR is and then maybe give staff's view on parking and traffic flow?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me start with just piggyback on his answer regarding the traffic study. So everything, the south property line of the project, let me go back to, can you, to the area? Oh, I got it. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so everything at the very south property line, that is the city border. So the right of way and anything south of it, that's part of LA County. LA County did review all of the traffic, and that is all of the traffic studies and access and everything. So they are aware of that, and they would provide their approval regarding the traffic study. So there is that. And I believe that they had to get it was part of it's part of our process for them to speak to LA County Public Works regarding that as well. So that was on that. And in terms of FAR, that is floor area ratio. And so that's basically the lot coverage for the site, seeing how much of the site can be covered. In this case, I am still looking for the numbers. So if you can give me one moment.
Okay. That's okay. Council, just when she's done, then we will bring it, I'll just bring it back here and we can ask whatever questions. We'll still be in public comment period. So just be ready to Mark, are you going to help her there?
If you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay.
While she's looking that up,
Sure.
the other thing to mention is that in terms of the density number of units, it should be known that this site is being built at not its maximum. It could be done at 30 units per acre. This one I think is around 20 something. It's about 80% of the maximum.
Okay.
So in terms of how much they could build, it could have gone bigger.
Great. Thank you.
We don't have I don't know if John's architect's here, if he knows the FAR. Is your architect here? We can just confirm that it does meet the standards.
Okay.
We don't have the number ahead.
All right. Thank you. Okay, anything else before the council has discussion, questions? Okay. Karen, I'll start with you this time.
I don't have any questions. And as was stated, that because this does not go to the maximum, while yet earlier this evening, we had the conversation because of one of our public comment speakers that we need to have more housing. And so this provides more housing. In these 46 townhomes is one more slice of that pie of bringing a different product into our community. So, and I think it's a very attractive project. They have the setbacks with the 3 stories so that it's not as some of my colleagues have said, a box with windows. It does have that variation, and I know that it meets some of the requirements that the mayor has asked for, and that it has a 1st floor bedroom. So I think that this project has checked off a lot of the boxes, and it will be nice to see some improvement to that property. I know that it will add some additional people in that neighborhood, but I think for the people living near there, I think looking at this project will definitely be an improvement over what is currently on that property, and will help with bringing some more businesses back to Arrow Highway. Arrow Highway right now is a food desert, and once we get some additional housing there, perhaps we could also bring in some other grocery stores and other businesses that would help the other residents that live along that area to have those in the city of Glendora, and they don't have to travel to outside cities for those services.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Gary.
Do have a couple of questions. The parking ratio, I was going to look that up before I got here. Do you have that?
I do. So if you look at the project analysis memo under circulation and parking. What would be required is 119 spaces, and they are providing 119 spaces.
Yeah, I would just like to, really encourage you to move forward with this, with the HOA to include some language that requires garage parking. Because so many times, when you get in these situations, people want to use their garages for storage and then find themselves trying to find someplace to park on the streets. And in this particular location, there's not going to be a whole lot of street parking for anybody. So that's really important. The other thing I was asking, I was trying to look on my phone at the satellite image and see there's a median that goes all the way across there on Arrow Highway. So as people come out of this location, they're going to be required to turn right.
Correct.
Okay. And it appears that the first opening up there, it doesn't appear as though there's a legal U-turn if somebody wanted to go east on Arrow Highway.
I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. But question, or from you living down there, do people have a tendency to make a U-turn there, an illegal U-turn? Okay. So that might be a conversation that I don't know what the signage looks like, but we might want to make sure that, yeah, but if we could follow up with them to make sure the signage is appropriate and maybe get some enforcement, because I can see what your issue would be with people turning right out of there and then trying to make a U-turn in a space that's illegal. But those are the only questions I have.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Natalie.
Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple questions I have is what's the width of the sidewalk? I didn't look on that. While you're looking that up, the applicant, so you're doing 24 units per acre. You could have gone to 30. Could you just not fit 30 in there per acre?
John, why don't you come up? This is a matter of public record, so we want to make sure that your voice is heard. I know that's what our city clerk was going to tell me to say, so I could read her mind.
Part of it's the shape of the lot, because it's relatively narrow and deep. And part of it is that to put the additional 12 units in would have required us to do a different type of product, a totally different kind of design, probably required some kind of a parking structure because of the parking requirements. And with this one, we were able to get a nice community or central area for the open space and all around it. And each unit has its own 2-car garage with a charger in it. And that's the product we wanted to build. We didn't want to just maximize as much as we could get. We wanted to build a product that was not only good for the neighborhood, but good for the people that are living there too, and that's what we've done.
What's
in
the
our
height?
opinion.
What's the height maximum for that area? Is it 45 feet?
The height?
Yeah, so you could have gone 3 stories there.
Well, we are 3 stories.
Oh,
yeah.
3.
Yeah.
And good.
That was my compliment.
Yeah.
So first of all, yes, 45 feet is the maximum height. The sidewalk width is 8 feet.
8 feet?
Yes,
Okay. And is that standard throughout that whole corridor?
I believe so, but that's I don't know what the LA County minimum is.
Yes.
Yes.
It is, but if you look at the Arrow Highway specific plan, it does encourage in the future a 10-foot sidewalk there, which is why one of the requirements for the projects is to give two extra feet as a dedication for the city in case a future project ever comes up. We can actually assemble an extra 2 feet from make it 10.
So how tall is that? Is the 3 stories?
It doesn't exceed 36 feet.
Okay, but then go to 40.
It could go up to 45.
45. Okay,
Mhm.
great. Thank you.
All right. Gary, sure.
I have another question. I just thought of in that particular area, we have the unique situation where the city boundaries of the city of Glendora start at the north end of the sidewalk. So the 8-foot sidewalk, would that mean the entire sidewalk on Arrow Highway would be in the county jurisdiction?
Correct.
So I have to ask a question. Would there be an advantage if that sidewalk was a wider sidewalk to make part of it within the city of Glendora jurisdiction?
So only 2 feet would be in the city's jurisdiction and the other 8 feet would be in LA County.
Well,
That sounds like a administrative nightmare for the police department, but
The point would be to give us the authority to enforce issues that we may otherwise not be able to enforce.
we get out a measuring tape and measure that sidewalk then.
Yes.
I think there is some thought in how to do that, but I think that sounds like a jurisdictional nightmare.
Was it the crack that you tripped on that sidewalk? In the
Yes.
county or in the?
For
city of
that exact
Glendora?
reason, yes.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, David, questions?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, John. It's nice to see something coming to the property. I am concerned, though, in the description of contemporary design. We've had many a workshop about desirable looks. And while the picture looks nice, it looks like a container village to me. I'm sorry, but the boxiness of it just doesn't work for me. The fact that it's door-to-door property line, front door to garage door with no patio things is discouraging. Would like to see something a little more homey or available for the residents eventually. It's tight lot, I get it. It is dense. But the design element, I'm not keen on it. To the discussion about parking, a half a space extra for each unit certainly doesn't pass my Thanksgiving Day test at all. That's if half the families in the property decide to have a guest for Thanksgiving, where are they going to go? Arrow Highway already has a parking issue. There was parking issues with townhomes and apartments on the south side, a little bit west, that I think use their garage for basements. So to Mr. Boyer's point, parking is key. And it's not something that changed. So the homeowner is going to come in and buy something as they see it. The conditions didn't change. It's going to be very important that they recognize there is posted no overnight parking. Street parking is abused right now. Those are concerns. And that's not something that, gee, the people west are saying, oh, but that didn't change while they were filling up their parking spaces. So I'm just concerned with that and hope that the developer and HOA can impress those values to the buyers. It's quite important. And do we have a guesstimate price point if we were to have this on the market today?
We have several different types of units in there, and I think the smallest ones are 2-bedroom. And they're about 1,200 square feet, and the largest ones are in the 1,600 square foot range, 1,650. And the prices for those would probably vary somewhere between the around 700 or 650 to 700,000 up to about 750 to 800,000, just in general.
Last question, if this is entitled, will you build it?
We plan on building it, yes. If it's entitled, yes.
Thank you. No other questions.
David, thank you. John is alluded to, Councilman Davis indicated that I like the bedrooms on some of the first floors, and I have been known to wrangle folks like you to ensure that bedrooms are on the first floor, and I want to applaud you for having a significant amount of those there. So thank you for doing that.
Well,
When you get to be my age, not nearly as young as you,
Oh, yeah.
you're not going to be fond of stairs. And,
Mhm.
and so thank you for doing that. And I do like the proactive, garage, where electrical is already there for EV cars. Thank you for thinking of that and appreciate that. And, I like it, support it, and, thank you for thinking of us and coming here and doing this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. Anything else that we need to ask of, either John or of Natalie?
I'll move recommendations 1 and 2.
Okay, so just let me do this. Let me close the public hearing. Okay, and now, Michael, you're on. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to, approve by Michael and a second by Karen. If you would all vote, and then Madam Clerk, you can do an oral roll call vote.
Councilmember Alowis,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fiorentino,
No.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes,
Motion carries 4-1.
thank you. Okay, we will move to, item 5, another public hearing to consider the FY 2024-2025 annual action plan and amendment to the FY 2023-2024 annual action plan for the CDBG. And presenting is Valerie tonight. Let me, open the public hearing. I have now done that. So Valerie, it's yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, Council. So as noted, we are going to take a look at the annual action plan for the fiscal year 2024-2025, as well as a substantial amendment for the current year, fiscal year 2023-2024. The Community Development Grant is administered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Tonight is the second and final public hearing that is required by HUD. The first was initiated on March 12th. And so much of what I'm going to go over tonight is a repeat. We are required to do 2 public hearings. So I'll go through it quickly. And then if there's any questions, we can take a look at that. But again, the CDBG must meet a national objective. Any activity we fund has to meet either a benefit to low and moderate income persons, eliminate slum and blight, meet an urgent community need, and it also must be a priority need identified in the 5-year consolidated plan. So the 5-year consolidated plan covers 2023 to 2028. The priority needs are to address infrastructure and public facilities, economic and human development, public service, fair housing, as well as administration and planning. The 2024-2025 annual action plan is the second within the 5-year consolidated plan. We don't know what our entitlement amount is going to be just yet. So we went ahead and in planning, we're utilizing the current year's number, which is $289,932. And I will also say that we received some program income from a seismic retrofit loan that was issued over a decade ago. It was paid off, so that money came back into the pot to be reprogrammed. So we have about $461,000 to go ahead and program. A notice of availability was issued and the application period was open for a month between December and January. So this is the proposed annual action plan. It is a draft. The draft plan is in your packet. It was available for a public review period. Again, it's an estimate since we don't have the final numbers, but basically 20% of the CDBG can go towards administration, which includes fair housing. Housing Rights Center did go ahead and submit an application for $20,000. And then the remainder of the 20% would go towards administration, which is staff time, as well as the consultant that we utilize. And then we also have the application that we received from Public Works for a street paving project. It is within a low to moderate income census tract. So the 80% will go ahead and be allocated to an infrastructure project. So HUD does require that when we submit the application to them, we do have to use the actual number. We don't have that yet, so we also are asking that council go ahead and approve our adjustment methodology. Basically, that would be, again, 20% of the entitlement amount would be for administration. So whatever that amount is, we will go ahead and continue to do 20,000 towards the Housing Rights Center. And then we will reduce or increase the general administration to go ahead and just be 20% of the entitlement amount. Similar with the infrastructure, the complete program income, the 171,577 we received would go towards the street project. And then the 80% remaining in the annual entitlement amount would go towards that street improvement. So this is the assessment methodology. Once we get the number, we'll finalize the numbers based on this so that we can submit to HUD. This just kind of goes ahead and shows you where the street paving project will be. It's between Juanita Avenue and Gladstone Street from north and south, and Glendora Avenue, between Glendora Avenue and near Glen Avenue from east to west. So in addition to the annual action plan, we are asking for council to approve a substantial amendment, and that is for the current operating year. I know recently, I believe it was the same evening on March 12th, council went ahead and approved the award of the contract for the Public Works project. That was contingent on the additional funding. We didn't have enough funds last year to give them the entire amount that they requested. Since then, we have found additional funding through savings from the 2021-2022 project, as well as unallocated funds. So that additional 54,924 will go towards the current Public Works project. But in order to do so, we need to do a substantial amendment to go ahead and put those funds, reallocate those funds towards this year's project. So again, the CDBG requires 2 public hearings. We had the first one on March 12th. We've had the 30-day required public review period, which was open from March 22nd to April 23rd. The annual plan draft was on the city website and available at City Hall, Community Development, and the city clerk's office. And that includes both the annual action plan for next year as well as the substantial amendment for this year. We are on the second public hearing, and we are asking for council to approve the allocations, or we will go ahead, based on your approval, adjust the allocation amount once we get the final amount, and we'll submit to HUD. So with that, our recommendation is that council go ahead and approve the annual action plan, authorize us to adjust the funding levels based on the actual allocation, approve this substantial amendment, and authorize the city manager to go ahead and submit the annual plan and the substantial amendment to HUD. With that, that concludes my report, and we can open the public hearing and answer any questions.
Valerie, thank you. Well done. I do not have any comment cards. Madam Clerk, do you have anybody on Zoom that would like to comment?
No, Mayor.
Okay. With that said, I will still continue to have the public comment period open and bring it back to council. Michael, let's start with you. Nothing? Gary? Anything? Karen? David?
None. I'd like to move to accept.
Okay. I will close the public comment period, and there is a motion by Michael, seconded by David. Please vote, and then we'll await the clerk to give us a oral roll call vote.
Councilmember Alowitz?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer? Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedel?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Valerie, thank you. I think that's the quickest that matter has ever gone. So excellent job. Thank you so much. All right. Item 6, I believe. This is the last of our public hearings. This is the first reading and introduction of a ordinance to amend the GMC to bring into compliance with state law and streamline construction of ADU and SB 9 units consistent with the general plan housing element, file number PLN 23-0035. I believe this was requested. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. I will open the public hearing on this and invite Hans to come up and give the report. Welcome, Hans.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Yeah.
pull this up a little bit. Okay, so the state of California has limited and even curtailed local control over ADUs, JDUs, and secondary units under SB 9 over the years through a sort of a plethora of different housing bills that we've heard presentations on. And this is really to alleviate the perceived housing crisis in the state. Glendora's current ADU ordinance has fallen out of compliance with state law in a number of ways over the years. It's difficult, there's other issues with it. It's difficult to understand for customers, and it's become kind of difficult for staff to administer as well because there's all these different ways where the state sort of preempted it now. Furthermore, Program 14 of the adopted housing element commits the city to amend the ADU ordinance to be consistent with state law and to facilitate ADU construction. The city instituted an SB 9 policy, not an ordinance, at the direction of the Planning Commission and City Council about 2 years ago. The policy has been generally well received and has worked well at the counter. We've continued, again, at the direction of Planning Commission and City Council to make refinements to it, explain things, improve the graphics, stuff like that. So sort of beta test it before we've proposing incorporating some of it in an ordinance. The secondary, we treat secondary SB 9 units and ADUs in that similarly, and similar standards, objective standards apply in the policy. Staff is incorporating relevant aspects of this policy into the proposed ADU update that's before you tonight. So I'll go through kind of a summary of the proposed changes. High-level summary here. First, in this code change tonight, we are proposing codifying some of the city's SB 9 policy regarding additional dwellings. We call these, you'll hear the term secondary dwelling, secondary SB 9 units, secondary dwellings. Those are very similar to ADUs, and they are covered under the provisions of SB 9. Additionally, we have a local code amendment to regulate urban lot splits under SB 9 will come later. They are much less frequently applied for and approved here at the city. So far we've only approved one urban lot split under SB 9 in the 2-something years it's been in effect. We get many more requests, conversations, and applications for extra dwelling units and ADU type things than we do for urban lot splits. Another thing that this ordinance is going to do is bring ADU and SB 9 secondary unit standards into consistency with each other. So there's currently the policy allows for 1,000 square foot SB 9 secondary units in pretty much all circumstances. And in the same circumstances, the ADU might be limited to 800 square feet. This will then align those together. One other thing that we're doing is ensuring that this code is otherwise internally consistent with itself. Some more summary of changes here. We're proposing allowing for 1,200 square foot ADUs and SB 9 secondary units subject to objective standards, regardless of Florida area ratio, which was described earlier, and bedroom count, and the number and size of other accessory structures. Currently, the California Government Code allows for an ADU to be no more than 1,200 square feet. So that's pretty much the cap on the size, and up to 1,000 square feet if it features multiple bedrooms. The county currently allows 1,200 square foot ADU, so we'd be in compliance with that as well. Finally, making the 4-foot side and rear setback, which is already in place for residential construction, universal to accessory structures as well. So we were here with the housing element implementation round of zoning changes. I think it was in the second package that came before you earlier, later last year. And that included a 4-foot side and rear setbacks for almost everything. It just not including the accessory structures. That included single family residential, et cetera. And I guess this is the final summary of proposed changes here. Instituting a 25-foot height limit for all ADUs, regardless of single or one, whether they're single or 2 stories. Allowing for second story detached and attached ADUs and SB 9 units, And I want to mention that the state already allows 2-story attached ADUs. So this will create fewer lot coverage issues. And, I put this sign up here when I drive to work. At the city limits, you see welcome to Glendora, then the first thing you see under it is no parking. So where I come from, they would have the elevation or the population or both there, or maybe Valentine capital of the world or something like that, Pride of the Foothills, which you see under our sign. But that's the first thing we tell you. And when we were doing some research for another case, Jeff, who's not here tonight, was looking at meeting minutes together from the 1960s Planning Commission here. And the topic then, all the conversation on a development proposal was related to parking and traffic issues. And so for 60 years, it's been almost the same issue. And so and I'm going to show you some pictures here, which will illustrate this a little bit, how it once was where people would put ADUs above garages. And then we took that down, and then they started converting garages to ADUs, cannibalizing parking. And now we're asking council to put that back so we don't incentivize people converting their garages to ADUs. Even though they still have the right by the state to do that, we're not making that, we're giving them other options or alternatives, if that makes sense. So by making development low and flat and covering an entire lot with structures, you have less space for parking. So that's kind of a takeaway I want to mention there. And then, final thing here is we're proposing eliminating the development plan review for all second-story construction within single-family residential zones. This was seen as both a fairness thing and a streamlining mechanism in line with our housing element commitments. But this one in particular applies to single-family homeowners. Under some of the changes we made, and again, at the prompting of the state, we currently now allow 10-unit apartments or less to go straight to building permit. So if you want to do a 10-unit apartment, 2 stories, you go straight to building permit if the zoning allows, and then we apply our objective standards. Currently, if somebody proposes an ADU addition under state law, allows for this now, that's second story. So if somebody wants to put an 800 or 900 square foot ADU as a second story addition to their home, have a separate entrance, we have to allow that to go straight to building permit as well. So really the sort of disadvantaged party here in terms of process is a single family homeowner who wants to do a second story to their home, but then has to go to a public hearing process, when apartments, ADUs, these other types of applications don't have to go through that hearing process anymore. That's why that's in here. With that, unlike with ADUs though, Florida area ratio and other design standards, like we limit the second story to be 75% of the area of the first story, that would still apply to just a straight second story home addition. So I got some pictures, some examples, and these are in Glendora. I've taken the addresses off, but these predate, our current zoning code that we have. And so here's a house. I found this on Redfin or Zillow. It's a cute home, very close to city offices. And that is an ADU unit above the garage in the back of the house. And so that's a second story ADU. This code would allow that to be built now under current design standards, which is to match the house. If a homeowner without this code update wanted to do that, we kind of adding a little complexity, consider detached structures that are within 6 feet wall to wall of the primary house to be attached in the code. So it's hard to say, you can't really see from these pictures, but if that homeowner, let's say, wanted to do that anyway under the state law, and we didn't amend our code, they could just do a home addition, solarium, bedroom, whatever, to get within 6 feet of that garage and then do this anyway. So that is an example. Another example, this one's right down the street. And it's an older thing, but notice how they preserve I put it in here, they preserve the garages. So the garages don't have windows and doors in them, is what you would see in our current code, converted to bedrooms and living rooms and such. They're still for storage and parking, and the loft unit or whatever it is up above that, and that's down the street. Here's another one that's just down the street from us. And there's in the back, again, you can see that the garage door is still intact. And these, again, predate our current zoning code. That's a second story detached ADU and behind the single family home in the front. Again, just another example down the street. I didn't go too far here for examples. So this one is a carriage house in the back.
And that top portion could be an ADU under this code. In fact, under the state law, that entire carriage house could be converted to an ADU because you can convert existing structures, no matter how big they are. You could convert a 3,000 square foot barn to an ADU under the current state law. And here's some examples of new products. So I showed those older products to kind of say, okay, here's sort of how it was done before the current zoning that we have today. Here's some new products. These are not in Glendora. These are things I found on the internet from, folks architects that design and build ADUs and secondary units, and they look very much like the old one. So it's kind of showing that by matching architecture of the existing house, you can make pretty similar products in terms of stacked or ADUs above garages, secondary SB9 units above garages, etc. Here's an example of a stacked unit. So it would be like an ADU on top of another ADU or a secondary SB9 unit. And here's a little bit different architecture style, which once again, could be a stacked unit, or it could be just depending on the footprint, just a 2-story ADU or secondary SB9 unit. So we went to Planning Commission April 2nd, and they recommended approval to council of this draft ordinance. We have received and heard no opposition either at Planning Commission or from citizens. In fact, we've gotten comments more in support of it from folks of the ordinance, and staff recommends approval of this proposed ordinance and CEQA exemption. And I'm here happy to answer any questions after the public hearing.
All right, thank you, Hans. I don't have any cards for public comment from the audience. Madam Clerk, anybody on Zoom that wants to comment?
Yes, we have one speaker.
Okay.
iPhone. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Mayor, Council. This is Sean again. First of all, I want to say kudos to staff. They were able to jump on the phone with me, answer my questions earlier today. So thank you, staff. And also want to say this is an excellent proposal. This will make the code consistent with state law, and that'll just help us reduce any confusion that's out there. However, I do have a comment on one of the proposals. It's on page 8 of the ordinance. In the table up top regarding the proposed primary SB9 unit size, and this is to do with the FAR that I posed a question earlier. Here, what the proposal says that it's going to limit FAR to 35%. So FAR is essentially the coverage area based on your lot size. So if your lot was 1,000 square feet, you could build 350. However, in this proposal, it also says to reduce, so take the 35% of the lot, but also reduce the coverage area by another 1,200 square feet. And that makes it a very tiny home. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I did some math earlier today. So if we were to take a half an acre lot, which is a sizable lot, and we were to do SB9 on it, so split the lot, this is where this becomes applicable, you're looking at about 5,500 square feet of 2 lots, okay? And then you take 35% of it, which comes out to a little over 1,900, and then you got to subtract 1,200. And that comes out to a little over 700 square feet. So once the lot is split, you can only build 700 square foot of a house on it, okay? And that's going to be, that's a very small home that you can maybe get 2 bedrooms and 1 bath out of it. And if you do the calculation of FAR on that 725, based on the new lot size, it comes out to 13% FAR. So, you know, it does limit what you could build on it. And I know staff was not able to get the FAR for the first property, but I did go into the staff report real quick and was able to calculate for the earlier property, and it comes out to 88%. And staff could check my math on it, but I'm fairly confident it came to 88%, even though that's a different density zone unit. But just to give you a little perspective. So what I'm proposing is, I think it's fine to have 35%, which will be consistent with any other lot you would have, but take away that 1,200 reduction, so we're able to build some decent sized homes. Okay. And that's my comment. And I'll stay on if staff has any or council has any follow-up questions for me. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, sir. You have a good night. Madam Clerk, is there any other Zoom
No, no, Mayor.
hands? Okay. We will continue with the public comment period. Hans, do you want to respond to what the gentleman said, or
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. It's an interesting point that he brings up. So in terms of the idea behind what this is, a performance metric. So when we crafted this, the thinking was that, okay, if somebody splits a lot into two, as he well said, and we're kind of trying to think about order of operations stuff, which is that, like, okay, if you have because we know the state says we have to do at least 800 square foot, and we're proposing 12. Now it's 1,000 if it's multiple bedrooms. If you have a new lot, somebody could come in here and say, okay, so because we have this floor to area ratio limit, let's say I'll use a 10,000 square foot lot, for example, because I can do the math in my head. Somebody comes in and they say, okay, we know that there's a 35% limit. So that's 3,500 total square feet on that 10,000 square foot lot that I have to play with. We exempt certain things like 400 square feet of a garage, for example, because again, we kind of incentivize parking for cars and we want to do that. If somebody were to come in with the ADU or secondary SB9 unit application in this case, with both units shown on it, they could do a 3,500 square foot house and then submit for the permit. We process that. Then a week later or a month later, when they get their permit approved, maybe 2 months, they could come back and submit for their 1,200 square foot secondary unit. Now you're way over your floor to area ratio. So what we did is put a performance metric in there to make sure that that house, the primary residence, was limited by the potential maximum size of the ADU or secondary SB9 unit. An interesting thing happens, and the caller brought this up, and I think it is an interesting point, which is in two scenarios, this could be kind of interesting. One is on a very big lot, above 10,000 or more. You end up with kind of a potentially smaller than you could get primary house. The other place where it's kind of interesting is and he mentioned it as well, on a very small lot. So SB9, the state says we have to allow lots down to 1,200 square feet. That's never going to happen here. But there's this 40-60 sort of ratio that has to be preserved. But let's say you did like a 5,000 square foot lot. Well, then 35% of that is going to be like something like 1,700. So on its face, that would limit the main house to 200 square feet. We know that the state says you have to allow at least 800 square foot units. So you're basically going to have a kind of a small primary house, and then you could have a 1,200 square foot secondary unit. That's an interesting sort of issue with this. So, I think it's a good question for council's direction. We could leave it as is, and that could be the outcome. We could take that reducing factor out and just say you can do a 35% floor to area ratio for the primary residence, and then as big of a ADU up to 1,200 or secondary unit up to 1,200 as you can get, knowing that on small lots it's not going to be possible due to setbacks and area stuff, or something else. So I think we could leave it as is, or it could be recommended to be amended, and we could take that out if that's seen as a problematic thing.
Okay, all right. With that, I will bring it back to council for any questions or to address the question that was just raised. David, we normally don't do this, but I'll start with you this time.
Okay. Thanks, Hans. Curiosity, we've heard repeatedly that we're not compliant with the state's laws. Is it out of compliance or just not meeting their recommendations size-wise I'll say the 1,000-foot ADU versus a 1,200-foot ADU. I wouldn't call that out of compliance as much as we're just not at their maximum opportunity. Is that the right wording?
It is. It's a little of both. So in some ways, we're just flat out of compliance with state law. So for example, we have a 16-foot height limit for ADUs right now in the code, which is amended in here. And so I mentioned, hey, we're proposing a 25-foot limit. So the state says by right, you can do a second story attached ADU right now. That would in all circumstances exceed 16 feet. So things like that are out of compliance. The
Okay.
state also says that we can't limit ADUs to under 1,000 square feet if they have multiple bedrooms. In some cases, because of our rules with the number of detached accessory structures and other things, we would do that. There's other things though, as you mentioned, that from 1,000 to 1,200 square feet, that would be more of a recommendation. It's not absolutely required that we did that. So council could give us direction. Planning Commission did not, to limit make our just absolute ceiling 1,000 square feet for all ADUs and secondary SB9 units. Could give us that direction. I would advise if we did go in that direction, we would want to change that performance metric that the caller just mentioned to sort of adjust for that. So we're not reducing the house more than we're
that
limiting
becomes
it.
a catch-22.
We can fix
doesn't
that.
it?
We can clean that up through a little revision of it there.
Okay, thank you. Additionally, just lost my train of thought here a second. Currently, the SB9 split requires the landowner that's doing the split to retain residency on the property as one of the residents for 3 years. Has that rule changed?
So the wording in the state law is for the property owner to also be the applicant to also via affidavit say they intend to live there for 3 years. And so we get so we've only done one, but we got a signed affidavit that they intend to live on one of those properties for 3 years. The other thing we have in our code is we don't allow vacant, completely undeveloped parcels to be split because there's no way for somebody to live on a completely undeveloped parcel. So that's one thing that was in our original policy document. So that's not changed. They are required, if it's split, to say they intend to live there for 3 years. Again, I don't know, if they tell us they intend via, legal document and
We're not going to go take attendance. so-
what's going to happen if they say, well, that would become a semantics thing. And so I don't know to what extent if somebody left after a year or didn't move in or something, and they said that was their intent, that would hold up. Probably not.
Okay. Some of my concern, and I would encourage this body at a future time to take a look at it. We have reasonable concerns about high-risk fire danger and hillsides and things like that. And, that's not unreasonable. And some of our ordinances were put in by other entities a long time ago for different reasons, but I would encourage us to maybe review some of that because we have a lot of non-conforming streets in town. And if we have a non-conforming street, but someone wants to do a lot split, we expect that person, the applicant, to create a perfect street, even though the street's been that way for 75, 80 years, okay? Fire truck can get up it, may not be able to pass each other going and coming on the same street, but I think we need to revisit that as a whole. Is that still reasonable? If you've got an existing tract up on that hillside in an old neighborhood and there's available space, we say no because of the high fire only, and it's not a 4-lane highway going up it, and maybe that's not reasonable. So I would encourage us to maybe give that some consideration. Other than that, no other questions. So thank you.
Thank you, David. I should have probably gone to Gary first because I believe on the dais you're the only ADU pro up here. So I'm sure you have all of the questions and answers to those questions.
If I were the pro, it wouldn't have taken 9 months to get it done. Honestly, I just went through the process and the city was actually very easy to work with and what we dealt with, it was more of construction and supply line issues that and I still don't have solar panels, even though I've been working on that since September. I got a question and I've seen this multiple times. Can you go back to page 6 of the presentation? Slide number 6.
Here. And I don't see the page numbers from here, so you'll just have to tell me when I land on
Okay,
it
it's
here.
the one before the Glendora sign, the welcome to Glendora sign. You can
Okay.
park here.
On street overnight.
Excellent. Okay. And I've seen this before, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Currently, California government code allows for an ADU to be no more than 1,200 square feet and up to 1,000 square feet if it has multiple bedrooms. Help me here.
Okay, so
1,200 square feet if it doesn't have bedrooms, but 1,000 if it does.
I think I could, I'll attempt to explain this, and if I stray, I'll ask our city attorney to jump in here. There are 4 numbers really to keep in mind: 800, 850, 1,000, and 1,200. And I'll explain kind of in order what those are. So 800 square feet is the size below which the application of any objective standard we have shall not constrain an ADU to be smaller than that. So basically, as a homeowner, you have a right to build an 800 square foot ADU if you can, and that can encroach in your front yard setback, exceed our floor to area ratio, design stuff. You don't have to park it, et cetera. And that's per state law. The next number is 850 square feet. So a local agency can't have any code per state law that has their maximum size limit for an ADU below 850 square feet. The next number is the 1,000. So the 1,000, if they propose an ADU with multiple bedrooms, and we don't have any limits on the number of bedrooms for ADUs, then that minimum size is 1,000 square feet. So we can't tell you it has to be smaller than 1,000 square feet, not 900. That's just, you get 1,000. 1,200, the final number in that sequence, is the maximum size that the state says an ADU can be. Above that, they consider it a home, just a single family residence, basically. And that really, where that comes into play is there's different building code stuff that applies, with sprinkling and things may come into play. ADUs are actually required if the primary house is sprinklered to be sprinklered. But there are some, if it's not, the ADU, like a 1,190 square foot ADU wouldn't be required. And there's other things like that with parking. We don't require parking for them either. So that's basically all the different numbers. And if I've misspoke, feel free to.
Yeah, I think that was right. But what he said, that the 1,000 feet applies if there's more than one bedroom. I'm not sure that you said that, but yeah.
Okay, so the question the caller asked about the 1,200 exemption for the main house in order to cover our FAR. Okay. Because the state allows for SB 9 splits on lots all the way down to 2,500 square feet, which is absurd. That would put us in a position where we do have lots in town that are 2,500 square feet. So it's possible. But even if you get up to, just trying to do the numbers in my head, if you're at about a 7,000 square foot lot, you're going to be in a position of having an abnormally small single family home. Is there any way to make that, allocate that additional allowance to be a percentage of the size of the lot as opposed to the 1,200 square feet?
Well, that's the thing that could be researched. I think Florida area ratio is kind of a percent. So you could think of a 0.35 Florida area ratio to be a 35% limit, right? So one thing, and I think I'd mentioned this in my presentation or after the caller rather, we could amend, council could direct us to amend this or revise this. And I'd look to the clerk and the attorney on how the exact language will go to take away that reducing factor. So that then it would just, in your example of a very small lot, it would just become practical constraints, on a 5,000 or a small, 2,500 square foot lot cut in half or whatever, you would never be able to get to 1,200 square foot units or something like that. You would, your secondary unit would probably be, 5 or 6 square feet.
Go ahead. I was just gonna add one clarification point. I think too, sometimes we talk about hypothetical vacant lot being split and development all being new versus an existing home currently on a lot that the SB9 lot has. And I think a really important factor to here to consider is hypothetically new development to get 4 units on one parcel is a fundamentally different exercise, I think, in some regards than taking a large 20,000 square foot lot that we do an SB9 split and they build ADUs. So I think that's some of the complicating factor in this conversation that we're dealing with. And I think what the callers talked about and what we've grappled with is trying to simplify, which really we've been able to simplify for existing single family properties that have a unit on it, how we address it. We've been able to simplify that, but this development that every vacant single family residential could be developed into 4 units is essentially the question that we're having now, which is a much more potentially complicated endeavor.
Part of the reason for my question is, would that put us in a position of maybe continuing to be out of compliance just because the numbers don't work?
Well, what we would, in that situation, and what would happen is we would hit that first number that I mentioned, that 800 number. That state says the application of a objective design standard can't limit these SB9 units to less than 800. Same with ADUs, to less than 800. So in that case, if you came in here with a very, very small lot, and this didn't work out, you could basically do an 800 square foot house and a 1,200 square foot SB9 secondary unit, and that it would come down to the practical limitations of whatever your lot was to, 4-foot side and rear setbacks, that sort of stuff.
Also, I may have misheard your original question, but the lot split itself, it has to be between 40% and 60% of the original lot area, if that makes sense. So it's
Right. I understand that. What I'm looking at is the floor area ratio. When we put that 1,200 square feet as an exemption in order to stay at our 35 FAR, if we're looking at smaller lots, it's going to put us in an unreasonable position to try to approve something. And I'm wondering if that could cause us issues in the future where we would still be out of compliance because the numbers just wouldn't work. So my thought was, would it be possible to make that 1,200 square foot exemption a percentage as opposed to a steadfast number?
If couple of things there. So, I was trying to think through the math of this in my head a little bit. If there was a percentage, like let's say council said sort of give us direction on a performance metric and said, okay, the house has to be whatever is allowed in the zone minus, 25%, let's say, something like that. That could create some space for this secondary unit. In a lot of cases, it would be a sort of small arbitrary number that wouldn't correlate to the size that you're allowed to with a secondary unit. Another idea would be, as I mentioned, to not have something in there and just allow that 35% to be there and then have the, 1,200 square foot secondary unit. Another option would be to, I don't want to put too many things out there, but to just sort of clarify with the secondary, the primary residence that it can be, the absolute minimum for that's 1,200 square feet too, so that it matches the secondary unit. But again, on bigger lots, that might be strange. So
And
there's
part
a
of
couple
it,
of options
yeah.
there,
I mean, Hans, in sort of summary, is the policy decision for the council is, do you want an SB9 split to be a larger home, or do you want an SB9 split to be limited to a smaller residence that's part of the overall original parcel? So essentially, in an area, let's just call it the zone for 20,000 square foot lots, and there's, let's say, a 4,000 square foot 2-story home on half of it. Do you want to allow another 3,500 square foot home next door if they split the lot in half? And so essentially that's kind of the FAR question in a nutshell. So really the policy decision for the council, and Hans and Danny, please step in, and Mark, please feel free to tell us where we're wrong, is really how large of a secondary unit do you want to allow on an SB9 split versus a lot split that follows other regulations in the city, which then has right-of-way complications and other things. So the policy decision is really how large do you want that secondary unit through an SB9 split? Is that fair?
I think that's exactly correct. Yeah.
Just to be clear, we don't want SB9 splits.
Yeah, and so on,
But
yeah.
they're here. We have to work with them,
Yeah.
so.
So
Um,
that in a nutshell is the policy decision. And now's as best of time as any. We were chatting with the city attorney before. His firm represented a consortium of charter cities that won an SB 9 decision in LA County Superior Court. Is that correct? So while we are a general law city, that doesn't necessarily apply to us, and we're certain the state will appeal, there could potentially, and their firm has worked on sort of the framework for how cities would outlaw or general law cities could fight SB 9. I think it's important to note like that Cal Cities participated with the charter cities as opposed to the state's SB 9 as well. So there are some bigger political organizations out there supporting this initiative. The item tonight is first reading. If there is an issue that arises regarding that lawsuit or decision, we could update the council before a next meeting as well. So I guess now's not the best time, but we literally got the update today. So we couldn't add it to the report. So just kind of one more thing to throw out there, but really the policy decision as was mentioned is how large do we want to allow a unit on an SB 9 split? With all the complicating factors that were here, staff was just trying to provide some streamlining for the count for applicants, but this is a difficult policy decision.
appreciate it. And again, in my opinion is that these policies do not help with affordable housing in any way, shape or form. They've actually driven up the cost of land because you can do more with the land now than you have been able to in the past. So the goal is not being reached, but we have to figure it out. But anyway, I appreciate it. I understand what we're trying to do. I was just wondering about the idea of using a percentage, but that could have other complications. So that's all the questions I have. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Michael?
Thank you, Mendel. It sounds like there's a lot being talked about, and it seems to be complicated, maybe more so than it needs to. Bottom line is 800 square feet is the bottom, it's the floor we have to approve, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
So we have setbacks that are required by law that we have to have.
4 foot setbacks they allow us to have the setbacks. You could have 0 setbacks, like 0. So we do have setbacks.
We
And we're
build
allowed
on lot line for ADUs, I think.
No, not for ADUs, but
there are homes here that do have ADUs on lot lines in the downtown area, but that were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Right,
That
but
does occur.
Current ordinance and law, we cannot put anything on
No,
lot line.
and what Hans was saying is state law allows you to go to a 0 sum.
Yeah, 0 setback.
Yeah. But we're not proposing that. We're proposing 4 feet, which is the maximum, they don't allow us to set it any farther away.
That's correct. So the state says you can have a 4 foot side and rear setback, and we do. They wouldn't let us have a 5 foot side and rear setback.
We have any requirements from utilities for setbacks of 4 feet, 36 inches?
I think that
Part of the process for looking, but most of those are on the property lines.
So what would happen? Yeah, it's a couple of things with the SB 9 lot splits. So we've been talking about that. One of the requirements for a submittal, for complete submittals, that the applicant provides us will serve letters from all the relevant utilities. So electricity, water, sewer, that sort of thing, gas, if they want that. On ADUs, they're allowed to, so if they're not splitting the lot, which is again, most of what we do, we've only done 1 lot split. It's pretty complicated. They're allowed to connect have separate utilities or connect the ADU or secondary unit to the main house. So in that case, we do require them on the submittal, the site plan that they submit to us, to show all easements for utilities. So if their designer shows a 5 foot easement, we would catch that ADU is in that easement 1 foot or whatever.
So we're basically debating whether a 200 or 400 square foot differential, whether it's respectively 1,000 square feet or 1,200 square feet. That's all we're really talking about at this moment in time, because then you have your other calculations that you're trying to put in for area ratio and other things as well. At the end of the day, we still have to account for 800 square feet, regardless of whatever calculations you want to have by law.
That's correct.
So why can't we just keep it at the 1,000 square feet we have right now, allow it, because we have our setbacks we've already baked into the ordinance, and call it a day? I don't know why we have to go to 1,200 square feet. when it's not required to go to 1,200 square feet, where the max basically, it sounds like, is 1,000 square feet, but with the bedroom ratio that you may have. We're not required to go to 1,000 square feet, as to what David and you had mentioned earlier in the discussion.
Yeah, that's correct. That's a couple of things there. One of the overarching objectives here and what was mentioned in program 14 of the housing element and also picked up in the strategic plan, which says to implement the housing element, is to sort of streamline this. And so as I kind of mentioned, all the complicated different numbers I was throwing out, that kind of stuff that happens with customers at the counter, and then I throw in 26 different SB9 options, it becomes very complicated very fast. That being said, the council could give us policy direction to just say cap it at 1,000 square feet for ADUs and secondary SB9 units. And we could
Be done with it.
amend it to that. The other stuff would be in there, but we could do that and not go up to 1,200. That would be a little different than a couple of points with that is the 1,200, visually 1,000 and
Yeah, but you
1,200
can-
look pretty
but
similar.
you can allow it, say, okay, fine, we're not going to do this fancy math and this, that, and the other. You can go up to 1,000 square feet with the proper setbacks, as long as you don't run into another building.
We'll still be doing some fancy math,
Well,
even at 1,200 square feet. So,
simplify the process.
but that's the policy discussion for your colleagues up here. So the planning commission twice with the ADU have recommended the 1,200 square feet in the previous iteration of this too. And so staff's looking at applicable. Ultimately, as you mentioned, council member, the debate isn't with staff, it's with your colleagues. If you want to do 1,000 square feet or 1,200, staff's given you their recommendation to what we believe city council should consider.
Clarification, the recommendation to planning commission was from staff for 1,200 square feet,
Yes, which they agreed with.
which I had some discussion, as I mentioned to you earlier, that they were confused with that. So if we made it very simple to 1,000 square feet, because we have to mandate 800 square feet no matter what, and get rid of some of the complications, if the other folks on here were agreeable to that, doesn't that make it quite simple or simpler?
That's not a staff question, council member.
But is it not simpler
No.
for the counter?
No.
Well, I would say it's
doesn't-
not
it
because
doesn't-
the state says you can get 12 and people know what the state says.
And so does LA County.
So when John Doe comes in and says, well, why can't I get 12 when I know I can get it? But we're 1,000, and that just defeats the whole idea of making things simpler.
Right, but
that's
you
exactly the
also
conversation.
eliminate what the caller had mentioned about how you have to do the math percentages. and
No.
things
No,
of
it
that
No,
wouldn't- it
no,
wouldn't
you don't,
change
council
that.
member. That's not true.
It's still a math.
It's just an up to different amount. That's all.
Yeah.
So why can't you just simply have the setbacks and allow it to 1,000 square feet?
Well, that's a conversation for your colleagues on the dais, council member.
The one thing that would make the 1,000 square feet more complicated is if somebody wanted to go to 1,200 square feet, they could go through the process of requesting it.
Not if
So-
it's in the code already.
Well, yeah, because they can always request and go through a hearing process to make an exception to allow for
Right.
1,200 square feet. Since the state's allowing 1,200 square feet, we could say no.
They can appeal
But
staff's
we have
decision.
but the cities have the option to go up to 1,200 square feet. It's not mandatory that we go to 1,200 square feet.
Yeah. But when
Why
staff
would we
said,
want to do that when the county and the state are all aligned to 12? Then we're odd guy out.
Because they want to jump off a cliff doesn't mean we have to.
no, but it honestly, council member, is a policy decision for the council. I think staff's articulation is pretty clear.
But it's our choice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's true.
And so some of the question would be is that if you have a larger footprint, larger lot, they could get by with the 1,200 square feet, but a smaller lot could not because they have a smaller lot. They would have to be 800 square feet, 1,000 square feet or something of the nature, might not be able to go to the max. So they would be limited because they have more, somebody would have a smaller lot size than a larger lot size.
But council member, that's the same issue they'd have at 1,000 square feet.
But if you did it by right,
No, that's not what we're talking about here.
well, it is part of the discussion we're having.
800 square feet is by right.
Was by right, but we can make it by right with the setbacks and things of that nature. That's part of the discussion, as was talked about earlier. Do we want to eliminate some of the calculations or not?
And I'll just share with you, one of the reasons that I am more comfortable with this than I was when we initially had the conversation is because we haven't had the epidemic of ADUs and SB9 splits that some were predicting. So it hasn't become as big of an issue. So going to the 1,200 square feet, I'm not sure how many of those are ever going to be built in town.
This depends on your lot size. So if someone has a smaller lot size, they can't go to 1,200 square feet.
Yeah, well, in that case, it would be moot.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. But I'm just saying use that wonderful word equity.
All right. Anything else? Because
Uh,
Karen needs to comment and then I need
Just
to
one last
comment.
question.
Okay.
The issue about the high fire severity zones and the smaller streets, is that a function of us, the city, or is it a function of approval for the fire department?
There's a couple of things there, and I can speak for sort of planning, and I did a little bit of research on this today. So if somebody submits for an ADU or an SB9 unit or whatever, new residential construction in a very high fire hazard severity zone as depicted on a CAL FIRE map, that building permit will then get flagged by building to get reviewed by Los Angeles County Fire, in addition to us planning and everybody else here building who looks at that stuff. We have a provision in here in this code, and it's in our current code too, that we prohibit the construction of ADUs and secondary SB9 units, et cetera, new residential stuff in very high fire hazard severity zones unless fully mitigated. And that fully mitigation, as far as what we can look at, includes a street that meets, whether it's public or private, city standards. And that minimum width is 26 feet, which I think was mentioned earlier here. LA County Fire has other things that they can look at, such as like no portion of the ADU can be further than 150 feet from a street for, hose lay sort of things. There's minimum driveway widths of 20 feet if they should park it. Again, with ADUs, we don't require parking, so they technically wouldn't need to have a driveway. So there's these other fully mitigation things, and I can't really speak for LA Fire because they could be looking at building code stuff, sprinklering, brush clearing, stuff like that we're not going to look at. But yeah, that's part of it, and that city width street, as was mentioned earlier, is usually what squashes it at the point they want to build additional units in the very high fire zone, unless it's like lower down on the hills where they're served by some of our wider existing streets.
And I see Mark ready to come up, and I would just add, Councilmember, the issue isn't specifically for ADUs but it's buildings in general in the high fire hazard severity zone. It's something previous councils put in to stop development in the foothills. And so when that was a political hot potato, that's kind of some of the mitigations that were put in place at that time to stop development. It's prohibitively expensive to widen a street if you want to put an ADU. But that said, there are options we could consider, one of which is a deferral to LA County Fire, but Mark, go ahead.
I just want to add that when the ordinance was created originally with that language, we basically just mirrored the language that LA County has already for their ADU ordinances as well. Since they have the fire department, they mirrored that, knowing the same issues coming up and the evacuation issues or whatnot in terms of when fires happen to an area road. We don't want to keep adding more units on that. I think that was the theory of it, but ours mirrors the LA counties in terms of the language.
Yeah. So we could get in a situation where the city approves the development, but LA County Fire won't.
All right, thank you.
All right, Michael. Thank you. Karen?
And by the way, Hans, I think that your photo deserves to be on memes of Glendora. Welcome to Glendora. By the way, don't park here. So I think that it was great that one suggestion you had about keeping everything the way it is, but maybe simplifying that ratio equation where it would minimize the size of the primary house should that situation be a vacant lot. That equation that you talked about. I think if anything, maybe eliminating that to make it simpler, but otherwise, I think this cleanup looks good. So thank you.
Okay, Sean, are you on the phone? Sean? Sean?
We'll send.
I am, yes.
Okay,
Hi.
Sean, we are running late on this. I will give you a minute, 1 minute And that's not a NFL kind of minute. That's really a clock minute to ask whatever kind of follow-up that, that you want. Okay? You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, go.
Well, so a great discussion, and I want to point back to the floor area ratio. The problem is, even if you have bigger lots, now you're not able to build anything decent size. The example I gave you was for a quarter acre lot that was split. I mean, that's a big lot. And you, with all the calculations done, you're down to your primary home to be 725 square feet. That's a very small home. So, you have to go significantly large, maybe half an acre to begin with, to have, I don't know, I don't have the numbers, but that would be about 2,000 or whatever square footage it is. So if possible, you could have staff do the numbers, but I know for quarter acre, you're down to 700 square feet. That's not a whole lot of home. And also one more thing, we allowed high density, which was 88% FAR, but here.
John, wrap it up because your minute's up.
Just real quick, we're at 13% FAR. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. The question I was going to ask you is 20 minutes ago when Sean was on, did any of what he said, because it sounded like maybe there should be some tweaking to incorporate some of what he said, and maybe I misunderstood said that. But if we go ahead and pursue what is recommended here, can that be done? And can you come back and we can have another pass at this?
Mayor, I actually have a separate question I think that may help
Okay,
you
sure.
get there.
Yeah.
Hans, let me ask you a hypothetical question, okay? Let's say we have a 22,000 square foot lot. And let's say an individual purchases that lot and they put a 4,000 square foot home on that lot.
Mhm.
They could come back after the fact, correct, and still be entitled under a proposal for a 1,000 square foot ADU, a junior ADU, and do an SB9 split with another unit on it. Is that correct?
So
Because that's what you can do now with the house that's built.
you could. So that is correct. The total number of units in the area of the original lot can't exceed 4.
Correct.
So the JDU could become a little problematic depending how they split the lot in that scenario. I think, in this case, we're talking about like this, if you take a lot with the 4,000 square foot house now on the big giant lot and you cut that lot right in half, and then you want to do all these other units.
Correct.
What does the other primary house on the other lot sort of become at that point?
Correct.
And that sort of is the question.
And that is the issue we're trying to solve by having some uniformity across the board. I think some of the math that we're discussing tonight isn't quite applicable with an SB9 lot split because it's not a development unit that we would look at from scratch. The SB9 unit is sort of part of this process where we look at a smaller unit. But we're also talking about a hypothetical on a vacant lot. Most of what we're getting is not a vacant lot hypothetical, correct?
Most isn't. I think in the case of the caller, I think what he's talking about is maybe if you had, and it's kind of like our example, if you
Yes.
you have this other half now that's vacant.
Right.
What do you do with that?
Yeah.
And the first one that we actually did is that scenario. So you've got a house, now you've
Mhm.
got this lot with nothing on it.
Mhm.
What do we do with that? So
Right.
that's, yeah.
When do we have to make this decision? Are we way past due or can we
Part of
continue
our
this?
housing element compliance that we said we would adopt the missing elements to the SB9.
Do we have time to maybe continue this to the next meeting? Because we have a lot we've discussed tonight. There's a lot of questions out there.
So I don't think the questions are germane. I think the biggest question we've heard from the council relates to maximum square footage of an ADU, and really the policy the decision that we've had a conversation on is hypothetical size of an SB9 lot split.
But we're okay if we were to continue this to the next meeting and give staff time to take in.
Staff would need direction exactly what the council wants to hear back. Because right now, I'm not sure I have a question from the council as it relates to SB9 lot
Had a lot of
splits.
questions. I'm not sure if we're ready to make a decision either.
Yeah, if you, I guess my point being, if you could clearly articulate to us what your questions are, we'd be happy if the council wanted to continue that.
We need
to
a
come back.
workshop.
Well, I mean, for me, I would like to know if it's possible or workable for that set aside on the SBI not or SB9 split to be a percentage of the floor area ratio, as opposed to a set 1,200 square feet.
You could have some limitations depending on lot size. It could go both ways. Yeah.
And so I guess I would be, I would like to know if that's something that's doable. If staff looks at that and says, okay, that's going to complicate things anymore.
We can complicate it a lot by saying if your SB9 lot split exceeds, let's say 10,000 square feet, for example, there's a different set of criteria and here's what they are. But yeah, I think it's a valid question, and I think one that we can definitely do some more research on, but it's going to come down to the size of that SB9 lot split.
That's why using a percentage to me makes more sense.
Unless that lot is very small.
So
And then we
still-
have some minimum standards that we'd have to move forward with because the building code won't allow us to build a 50 square foot building.
Right, how does that work then with the minimum
We'd
size?
still have some minimum size that would be required.
Lies some of these issues.
It's no different, but it's definitely something if council wants more evaluation, we're happy to do that.
I would like to continue this, and I don't know if we can maybe put a working group together or something, someone like, whatever. I think there's an awful lot to be discussed here.
If council has more questions, we'd like to get those.
I mean, if the question is, 1,200, I mean, I'm fine supporting that.
But I think it's more than just the 1,200.
But if
Percentage,
it's,
or
if
ratio,
it's something else,
I think it's more than just that. I think
and I'm fine supporting making it easier and consistent with LA County and state. Cause that's when confusion comes. And I don't know if that means simpler math or, I don't know what that means, but I liked where we started from what I heard, that we're trying to make it simpler and streamline. Anytime government can do that, I think that's a good day.
It
part of the
sounds like,
discussion.
so as part of the discussion with Hans this evening and on the presentation, we've talked about 2-story ADUs, 2-story attached ADUs and that conflict. Does the council have any issue with what's being proposed with 2-story ADUs?
No, none.
Does the council have any concern over the 4-foot setbacks that we're required to have?
No.
Okay. Does the council have any concern over the size of ADUs?
Yes.
I don't.
Okay. So, no.
Fine, be that way.
I'm just trying to help staff here get clarity and get the council to where they want to go.
It is 9:37.
I'm trying, and we have an important event tomorrow morning. So
Yes, we do.
the council is the bigger concern than the size of a unit on an SB9 lot split and what that looks like
An undeveloped,
on an undeveloped
undeveloped.
parcel.
It sounds like all that we're talking here is this page 8, this one section here.
On an undeveloped lot. That seems to be the biggest challenge, right?
It is for me. Question,
Yeah.
does LA County do this? Do they subtract any type of square footage off of an SB9 lot split?
Not that I'm aware of. That was something that we had come up with back when we went to planning commission and our and city council with our original policy 2 years ago or something like that, and it just got rolled into this basically.
And I like the idea. I think it's a good thing to do. I just am worried about the complications by having the 1,200 square feet.
Absolutely understood. So it sounds like that's the complicating factor for the council.
Probably.
Is it with existing homes with an SB9 lot split or just undeveloped pieces of property where they want to do the SB9 lot split?
Both. Because now you're changing the density of that lot.
I don't think we can do that with existing homes.
No, this just applies to undeveloped.
Yeah, this just.
Property.
Just wanted to make sure
Undeveloped.
we're all on the same
Right.
page here. So truly it is an undeveloped lot that we have the
Truly
question on.
is.
Yes.
Okay.
But won't that affect, because we have a 40-60 ratio of this lot split?
Yes.
There's all kinds of complications,
that's-
yes.
So we're talking about the piece that's undeveloped, whether it's 40 or 45 or whatever it ends up being.
Okay.
But then how does that affect the one that is already developed? And you want to add the density of another 1,200 square feet?
That doesn't matter.
That
'Cause
would,
it's already
we won't make people demolish their existing
Correct.
house to be smaller or something like that.
So they can still do then the 800 minimum square feet.
They could do 1,200, the way this code's worded.
Well, minimum though, is minimum by law. They have to, they.
We would have to allow them, yeah, if they wanted, if they needed to go like.
Whether
into
it
the-
fits or not.
Yeah, basically.
So that
yeah.
decision has been taken out of our hands.
That's correct.
Understood.
Okay, so I think we can come back and ferret out some of those details, suss out some of those details if Janet's in the room. So she loves that word. So,
Do we want to continue it to a meeting certain so we don't have to renotice?
can we come back at the first meeting in May with some options?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is council okay with continuing to the first meeting in May?
Sure.
Yes.
We'll also take that time to update on any potential impacts to the lawsuit and decision LA County Superior Court.
That sounds fair.
Was there a motion?
I'll move that.
Motion by David, seconded by Michael. Please call the vote.
I will now conduct a roll call. Councilmember Alves?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer? Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedel?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Hans, you did a good job of stirring up our minds and thinking, so we'll talk again this next month.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Okay, we are down to the consent agenda and all items can be approved in one motion.
I make
7
a
to
motion to
9.
approve items 7 through 9.
Motion's been
Second.
made by Mrs. Davis, second by Michael. Please vote and the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Alves?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedel?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we're making some progress here. Item 10, discussion on public safety, legislation and initiative proposals under consideration. This was requested by Gary and seconded by Michael, and the presenter is Mr. Moises Lopez. Moises.
Thank you. I'm
Good
here to talk
evening.
about everyone's favorite subject, what
That's
Sacramento
right.
is doing in legislation. So good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. As the mayor mentioned, the report before you this evening is intended to provide the council with an update on various measures that are currently under consideration to address public safety concerns throughout the state, primarily in the legislature, but also by the initiative or through the initiative process. So I'll talk about a couple pieces of legislation that were unveiled about 2 weeks ago. Another piece of legislation that I actually did not include as part of the staff report that closely mirrors the initiative. And then the third piece is the initiative in and of itself. So given the array of public safety related issues that we've seen on the news and experienced throughout the state in recent years, the legislature is now considering several pieces of legislation that are intended to counter those trends. The so-called retail theft package was introduced 2 weeks ago and includes 7 separate pieces of legislation. I'll run through those relatively quickly. Assembly Bill 2943 would create a new crime of serial retail theft that would allow police to arrest shoplifters without witnessing the crime and define how multiple acts of theft with multiple victims can be aggregated into a felony charge of grand theft. As you know, the threshold currently between a misdemeanor and a felony is $950. So this would allow prosecutors to aggregate the total value of that lost. Assembly Bill 1794 would allow prosecutors to aggregate multiple thefts with several victims or in several locations. AB 1779 would allow prosecutors to file charges for offenses that are committed in different counties. AB 1972 would allow or would address cargo theft specifically, empowering the Regional Property Crimes Task Force, which is a task force comprised of CHP personnel and Department of Justice personnel, to assist railroad police in the prosecution of that crime. AB 3209 would create a retail theft crime restraining order for convicted offenders that could be applied by a wide variety of individuals. AB 1960 would impose stiffer penalties for property loss or damage that occurred during a felony. And lastly, AB 1808 would eliminate the sunset date for the crime of organized retail theft that was enacted in 2017. The Speaker of the Assembly has indicated that any bills that are proposing to amend Proposition 47 directly are not expected to advance through the Assembly this year. Notwithstanding that statement during his press conference, there are several other pieces of legislation that have been presented to the legislature that actually do amend or propose to amend Proposition 47. Chief among them is a proposal introduced by Senator Tom Umberg. This is Senate Bill 22, which would increase penalties for certain drug crimes, including fentanyl specifically, allow for murder or homicide charges for the distribution of those drugs under certain conditions, and would also amend Proposition 47 in three specific ways. One, it would allow for the value aggregation of shoplifting and theft, which is something that some of the other pieces of legislation are attempting to do. Would allow the prosecutors to offer treatment programs in lieu of a jail time, assuming that individual successfully completes that treatment. Charges could be dismissed if the program is completed successfully. And then it would allow or create sentencing enhancements for taking, destroying, or damaging property individually or when done in groups. This deals with kind of what we've seen on the news, the smash and grab type of crimes. So that is kind of SB 22. And if some of this sounds familiar, I think it's partly intended. The third component of the presentation this evening is actually the initiative that's being circulated or has been circulated for signatures. It's being sponsored by an organization called the Californians for Safer Communities Coalition. The Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act would amend state law to accomplish three general goals. One is that it would create a new court process for certain drug possession crimes that will be called treatment mandated felonies. So people with 2 or more prior convictions for various drug crimes who are found to be in possession of certain drugs could be charged with a treatment mandated felony rather than a misdemeanor. And those who successfully complete the treatment would have the charges dismissed, and those who do not complete the treatment would be required to serve up to 3 years in state prison. The second component is that it would increase penalties for certain drug crimes. The measure increases penalties by increasing sentence lengths and or shifting the sentence from the county level to the state level. And then the third component is that it would increase penalties for certain theft crimes. So it would allow misdemeanor theft crimes to be charged as felonies in certain cases and would create enhancements for those certain felony theft crimes based on the amount stolen. So it is estimated that approval of this initiative would create a fiscal impact on the state and on local county governments. The size of those effects would ultimately depend on several key factors, and in particular, the fiscal effects would depend on how certain provisions in the measure are ultimately implemented. Just last week, the proponents of that ballot initiative submitted more than 900,000 signatures that they had collected, which they expect will meet the minimum threshold of just over 546,000 signatures to qualify for the November ballot. So those signatures are in the process of being verified. It'll be a couple of weeks, if not months, before we get the ultimate approval by the Secretary of State, but that's expected. With that concludes my presentation. Turn it over to the council. We are recommending that you receive this report and that you provide staff direction on the next steps as to whether or not we should support any of the bills in their totality, individually, or even the ballot measure.
All right, thank you, sir. Gary, since you were the one that requested this, I'll let you go first.
Well, there's so many things so many irons in the fire right now pertaining to SB 47. It'd be nice if we could just completely eliminate SB 47 and start over again. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be in the cards. SB 22 is some legislation that most closely resembles the initiative that's on the table. My personal opinion is I have concerns with any of the Assembly or Senate bills for a couple reasons. First off, there's questions as to whether or not the legislature has the authority to make changes to an initiative that has been passed by the voters. And secondly is I don't trust them. Okay? They make these changes. We don't know that they're going to not make other changes. And so I would like to see us take a position to support the Homelessness, Drug Addiction and Theft Reduction Act that's going to be on the ballot in November. But the other thing that I think is really important is AB 1792 or 1972, which addresses cargo theft, which is not included in the initiative. And it also includes theft when it comes to equipment off of transportation, any type of equipment. So if somebody robs a Amazon driver, or even this could be stretched to include catalytic converter theft. So those are the two that when I look at them, I think it would be prudent for us to put our support behind them. Actually, I would support all of them, but I think that would be a little overkill. So
Okay.
that's my opinion.
Michael, since you gave your support to Gary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Gary's camp that 47 just needs to go away. But on that initiative, it still legalizes theft, correct?
Well, theft is not legal. The threshold for what type of punishment is ultimately
Up
going
to
to be adjusted. That's
$950
correct.
is zero punishment.
It is a
Legalization of
misdemeanor.
theft,
It is a misdemeanor.
which nobody prosecutes. Legalization of theft. So on this initiative that they're doing, they really don't address theft.
They do. They actually return it back to the Prop 47 standard.
Run that by again?
So it does the 950,000, well, it addresses it in several ways. One is
The aggregate.
the aggregation of the crimes, the number of crimes committed and the location of the crimes committed, as well as enhancements dependent upon the aggregation.
So, but when it aggregates it to what? Aggregates up to $950?
No, it well exceeds whatever the value is. So if one individual, let's say you wanted to commit retail theft, and you did that multiple times, it would be the total of all of what you stole would be aggregated into a single value. So if that value exceeds $950, which it will for the most part, then you would be charged based on that crime.
So it goes beyond a misdemeanor, it goes to a
Yes,
felony?
that's correct.
Okay, so if they go into the store several times and within 10 minutes or whatever it is, then that can get aggregated and go past a 950.
That's correct.
Okay. And what's the name of that again? The Homeless
That
Reduction Act?
is the Homelessness, Drug Addiction and Theft Reduction Act.
All right, I would be in support of trying to support that since the only thing that we have, and to Gary's point, Prop 47, it would be an initiative to undo it. It couldn't be done by the legislature, I don't believe.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Karen, any thoughts?
No, I agree with Mr. Boyer.
David?
I think we should support anything that improves the opportunity and tools to make crime not just an incident anymore. And it's sad, I don't trust the government in Sacramento nor respect them for the things that they're undoing in good characterism, but to make more laws to just worry about change, it's sad that we have to do that, but I think we need to support making crime a crime. Restore that. Thank you.
All right. I would support what Gary has said and Michael has said and Karen. So,
Before we make a decision, could I ask PD sitting in the back if there's an opinion from law enforcement, from the law enforcement side?
Good evening, all. I'm going to keep this short because the night is getting narrow. David hit it on the nose. Anything that goes towards changing the structure and being hamstrung by Prop 47 is a movement in the right direction.
Right.
And so with that is California Police Chiefs Association top priority for the legislative year of 2024 is addressing 47 and retail theft. But it goes way beyond that. So remind everybody to vote smartly. And but currently our position is anything that we can do in furtherance of reversing or getting a little more traction out of what is our current framework under 47 is positive direction.
great.
Is that helpful?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Mayor, I would just add to the points that were being made. The reason why we're before this body to look for some direction on the public safety side. Or legislative policy allows us the authority to support a lot of the initiatives that are here. It's the ballot measure that is different. And so if we had council direction to write letters of support, we would also then, if the council's in agreement that all these other items, as the chief just mentioned, are in line with our thought, we can support those other bills if they truly are doing what we're trying to have them to do along the way as well. So that's a pretty easy process, but it's the voter initiative that we would need specific direction on.
Okay. A motion has been made. I'm assuming to
What is
support.
the motion?
To
What-
support the Homeless Drug and Reduction Act.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that, Gary, since this is kind of your baby here?
You also wanted to specifically mention the other assembly
wanted-
bill.
One.
Well, in reality, I think it might be prudent to send letters of support for all of the legislation that has been discussed tonight.
Thought you didn't want to complicate it.
Change his mind.
Just throw out a wide net and
There
see
you
where it
go.
lands.
Yeah.
Sure, it's going to do anything, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything.
Yeah, but
They
which
need
one?
to hear the message.
On all of them?
All of them.
It sends a message that I think we want to send.
If
That we don't know
if
which
the horse
one.
trading starts happening in Sacramento, you can get bills that are combined and language that's changed, and it's
So is the motion that you've made to send letters of support from
So
for
amended
items
by my
A through
conflicted
H as
Council
shown?
member.
Yes?
Yes.
And David, are you supportive of that?
Absolutely.
I probably don't have to ask that. That's a stupid question. Please vote. And Madam Clerk, can you call the vote?
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedel.
Yes.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, for those of you who are watching, we have items 11 and 12 left, so we're almost done. And this should be a very quick one. Review outdoor dining fee. I can't imagine it has my name affixed to it. A year ago, this was talked about, and I said, we need to talk about it in a year, and I can't believe the year has been up. But apparently,
It is here.
it is here. And so we're going to talk about it. And Alicia is going to be here. She is here to give us an update. So it's yours.
That I am. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This evening, I will be providing a review of the current fee to conduct outdoor dining in the Glendora Village. In January 2023, staff introduced an ordinance amending the Glendora Municipal Code as it relates to outdoor dining in the Glendora Village. Later that month, a second reading of the outdoor dining ordinance was adopted, which amended the standards and procedures for conducting outdoor dining in the village. On March 14th, a public hearing was held to consider and approve fees for the permitting of sidewalk and parklet dining. At that March 14th public hearing, staff proposed 2 annual fees for each outdoor dining category. This included a $100 fee for those businesses conducting only sidewalk dining and $450 for businesses conducting both sidewalk and parklet dining. These were meant to be comprehensive fees that considered estimated costs for landscaping, general maintenance, staff time, miscellaneous materials, and the use of city electrical boxes. The 2 proposed fees would also permit equitable and exclusive use of the public right-of-way. After public testimony and discussion, City Council directed staff to revise the proposed fees to reflect a flat $100 fee, regardless of category. The public hearing was then continued on March 28th, where an annual outdoor dining fee of $100 was approved. Included in the motion to approve the resolution was a motion made by Mayor Thompson to evaluate actual costs to the city to administer the outdoor dining program and revisit the outdoor dining fee after 1 year. There are currently 14 businesses permitted to operate outdoor dining in the village, 10 of which operate both parklet and sidewalk dining, and 4 operating only sidewalk dining. Per the Glendora Village Outdoor Dining Manual, businesses are allowed to utilize 1 outlet within their designated electrical box. Because sidewalk dining businesses do not have a parklet structure and overhanging lights are not permitted, electricity privileges are enjoyed solely by businesses with a parklet. After a business entered enters into a use agreement with the city, it is assigned an electrical box in front of their business. Electrical boxes are located in city tree wells and have an identifying number. It is important to note that these particular electrical boxes are not individually metered, rather they are monitored by SCE. There is a group of 5 SCE parent meters that monitor usage for electrical boxes utilized by one or more Parklet users. The SCE parent meters monitor usage for a number of electrical boxes downtown and do not exclusively monitor electrical boxes used as an outdoor dining benefit. It is difficult to determine individual electricity usage for a number of reasons. The first being SCE metering limits the number and amount of information staff is able to gather, such as which businesses are actively using the electricity they have access to. And of those businesses actively using electricity, we are unable to determine how much electricity each business is using. Secondly, although it has been a year since City Council approved the outdoor dining fee, the city has not seen a full year of electricity consumption costs. And finally, not all businesses started utilizing, no, that was me, not sorry. And finally, not all businesses started utilizing their designated electrical box at the same time, with some utilizing electricity as early as July of 2023 and some later beginning at the start of this year. Because of this, staff identified a 4-month billing period where a majority of outdoor dining businesses were utilizing electricity and compared the cost to that same 4-month period the previous year. Staff looked at the 5 previously mentioned meters and compared billing. In looking at those SCE billing costs for September through December of 2022, staff determined that the city paid $724 in electrical costs. For that same billing period in 2023, after businesses were given access to electrical boxes, the city paid nearly $2,000 in electrical costs. This is a $1,255 increase, and again, this is for only a 4-month period. Assuming electricity usage trends are mostly consistent and understanding that daylight savings time and the holidays affect this usage, the city could pay up to $3,765 more in electricity for a 12-month period. When it comes to parklet cleaning, each individual business is responsible for the regular upkeep and cleanliness of their parklet, with the city being responsible for wood polishing as recommended by the parklet vendor. Over the course of the past year, concerns have been raised around the cleanliness on and underneath the parklet structures, suggesting the potential need for regular janitorial service. The need for these services is primarily due to the wood panel flooring on the parklet structures, which allow food and debris to fall through unreachable areas. This makes it particularly difficult to clean and collect debris that could potentially cause a future insect and/or rodent problem. In an effort to explore feasible janitorial services, staff requested 3 informal quotes for the cleaning of the city's 7 parklets, receiving only 2. Both quotes include options for annual, biannual, and quarterly cleaning of the city parklets, along with pricing associated with each. Quote 1 services include the soft washing of all 7 parklet decks, as well as the cleaning of debris from under metal flaps and decks. The second quote received reflects a more comprehensive cleaning service that includes the following: the hand washing of all 7 parklet decks, railings, and seating, power steaming underneath parklets, the removal of buildup in the gutters, and image reporting to the city. As shown on the previous slides, quotes range from a low end of $1,050 to a high end of $14,400 per year, depending on the comprehensiveness and frequency of cleaning. While precise parklet janitorial needs have yet to be determined, staff anticipates annual costs of approximately $5,000 annually. This is considering the least expensive option, which is 1 cleaning per year at an annual cost of $1,050. In evaluating the outdoor dining program and cost to administer it, staff has determined that the current outdoor dining fee of $100 does not recoup costs to operate and maintain parklets. And while it is difficult to determine exact usage, the city has seen a significant increase in electricity costs since businesses with a parklet were given access to electrical boxes. Considering the cost of electricity and optional janitorial services, staff estimates the annual cost to maintain parklets to be roughly $8,765 per year. Divided among the 10 businesses that have exclusive use of a parklet would be approximately $877 per year, which is equivalent to $73 per month. It is important to note that these amounts do not include staff time required to administer the program or cost for emergency and miscellaneous repairs. With that, the City Council may consider the following options. The first being to keep the annual fee of $100 for both parklet and sidewalk dining. And as mentioned in public comment, those businesses who have a few tables and chairs on the sidewalk are currently paying the same fee as businesses that operate parklet dining, which greatly expands the area they are able to do business. The second option would be to increase the annual fee for both parklet and sidewalk dining. And the last option would be to increase the annual fee for only parklet dining. An increase can be established through a standalone amendment to the master fee schedule or delayed and included in the fiscal year 26 budget. At this time, staff does recommend that the City Council discuss the existing outdoor dining fee and provide direction to city staff. And that does conclude my presentation, and I will take any questions should you have any.
Great, thank you. Since I was the one that wanted this, I'll go ahead and speak first. I want to thank staff for the excellent report that you gave, the details that were a part of it. I just want to remind everybody that the parklets were there to assist and in some cases save the restaurants, which we have. And I supported that and I still do. I think they're wonderful things and expression of our support. The parklet was at no cost. The shade structure was at no cost. In some cases, the parklet itself has enhanced the seating space by probably half, if not more. And there has been virtually no cost to the parklet people. And I'm just talking about the parklet folks now, for any of, that. Last year when we put the nuisance fee in is what I would like to call it. I mean, $100 is $100. It probably costs us more to send out the, note, get the check, cash the check, process the check, balance the check. But it was something. And I personally think that taxpayers are paying for this. They're subsidizing the parklets. And I think that the data shows that we need to have a little bit more. What that is, I don't know. I think the $73 every month to maintain, wash, fix, repair, paint, do anything that happens to those things is a pretty good deal when the real estate cost itself is nothing. So I would encourage us to take a hard look at this, knowing that it's the public funds. It's and not that we've sold a bunch of gadgets here and making money. It is the public's funds, and I think that we need to do our best to cover cost. And I hope that we might see fit to up that fee sum. But that's why we all are here, and I'll go along with what everybody says. So with that, who should I start with? David, I'll start with you again.
Troublemaker.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I just, whatever you want to say.
Thank you for the reminders and the great report. I would challenge that I could walk down the street right now and find the 4 non-parklet diners plugged into electricity. So if they claim they're not using electricity, I don't believe it. And I know of what. I know I can go to one corner right now and find it plugged in a tree.
Mayor.
I can, anyway.
Please, please, please.
I'm just saying.
It's not a
I
dialogue.
think that the electricity use is challenging to measure because I'm sure lots of businesses are enjoying, and they were plugged into the electricity before we had the agreement and opened the boxes. Many of them were making use of that. So it makes it a little challenging on our 4-month comparison. Additionally, if I recall right, Edison took pretty healthy increase in rates in January. So that's going to distort the sample, the good sample, but it's still a tough sample because it's hard to tell that use. And as we know, we can't meter every plug, so that's a little challenging. And which side of the box they plugged into, metered side or the non-metered side, Christmas decorations, that can change a lot of things. People get creative. So it probably needs to have some adjustment for the power, absolutely. As far as the maintenance goes, I'm not sure why we're discussing maintenance. It's in the contract. And one gentleman tonight spoke about the work he does and a couple of recommendations that make sense. But as far as rodents and things, it's not that hard to clean under them. I can only imagine. I think the guy's using them, and if you have a spill, you clean it up. Once a year, I don't think is enough to clean something. It needs to be done probably weekly. Good rinse and a blowout. There you go. Scoop it up with a shovel, and whatever shows up, you do it as needed. If we're having to pay to clean up for those vendors, pay it on the spot and hand them a bill for the user of it, period. I don't think the maintenance should be a discussion. It's part of the contract. They're doing it. Thank you.
All right, Karen, anything?
I can't remember if we brought this question up before or not, so you all will have to help me. And I know that this is going to sound crazy, but because I believe the parklets benefit the entire village, what about the bid kicking some money in so that the businesses themselves are not bearing all that burden? But because if I'm going to go eat at a restaurant, then I may go shopping so that other store benefits, so it's a synergy. So that's why I'm thinking maybe the bid help defer some of that cost and take the burden off the business. And I can't remember if we talked about that and said, that's stupid, we can't do it. But anyway, I just throw that out there because I know that, as Mr. Freudendahl said, electricity costs have gone up. As Mr. Sparling said, wholesale costs have gone up. So I know everyone is getting squeezed every which way. So whatever way we can look at spreading that out a little bit and making the pain not so much for everyone might be worth trying to do.
If I can, really quick, I do not believe we had that conversation on the dais last time. And then just to a couple of the points previously made, I think one of the important aspects is as staff spends more time, none of that's considered. And I can assure you that staff time is incredibly more expensive than what's being provided before you this evening. So that's the other aspect is the management. So that staff time is not in here, and the more management and Mayor Pro Tem, you've been incredibly consistent on your want for things to be held to the standard that people agreed to keep them. And so, we all want that. I think what you're getting this evening is just the practical reality of certain situations. And so if there is additional staff time and we're spending significant staff time, it's being taken away from other aspects of our business. And so that's not even being captured. So those are all very valid points. And I think staff would agree with a lot of what you said, but I think we're also missing the staffing component of a lot of that too.
All right, Michael, any thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Mendel. So I'm in agreement a lot with what David had said. Do we police and inspect the parklets for cleanliness and upkeep?
So currently we just do periodic visits. So we'll do walks downtown, and as things are not in compliance, we do address them verbally if the owner is there. And then we also send a follow-up email. We also do conduct an initial inspection and a mid-year inspection. At that time, that's the only really feasible extent as to how much we can police. As Adam mentioned, it is time consuming to get everyone on board. And like I mentioned, we do address in compliance. issues.
So who does as code enforcement do that?
It's me.
It's you.
Yes.
And do you have a report of that, of people who are in compliance or not in compliance?
I don't have a report. That's something we could explore in the future, but right now I just have email paper trail, letting them know that they weren't in compliance, and we do follow up with by mail as well.
So anecdotally, what percentage do you think are not in compliance with maintaining the parklets?
Parklets only.
Yes, because what we're talking about, that and electricity.
I would say more of the incompliance is going to be on the sidewalk with that clearance, that ADA compliant clearance. And like I said, we address that as we see it. And customers do move chairs periodically, and that's kind of hard to keep tabs on throughout the day. But that's really where the compliance issues are. And then you also see, that's pretty much the compliant issue.
Fair to say they're owning up to their contractual obligations to maintain the parklets?
I would say to the larger degree, yes, but I think just being conservative and taking the precautions of what that really looks like, the reality of the parklets and the cleanliness and what that looks like, and the percentage of people that are keeping up with their regular maintenance and cleanliness, as opposed to those who aren't. I think it's just really considering the city's stance on the precautionary action we're going to be taking. As I mentioned, there is buildup underneath the parklets, so that's something I think we would want to address. But in the large part, I would say most of the parklets are in compliance and are keeping up their end of the deal for the most part.
Okay, great. So then this comes back down to the increase in electrical costs, which should be a pass-through. So do we have 14 businesses?
Again, I think it's important to consider staff times not included in any of this.
So there's a lot of things that's not included, but is it fair to say that we have 10 or do we have 14 businesses plugged into the power?
10 are able to, not all 10 are. There are 14 businesses that are currently permitted to conduct outdoor dining, and that does include only sidewalk dining users.
So help me with it. How many
So they're
businesses
set,
apply to plug in?
to plug in, currently there are 8. That is not an application. They're authorized that use when they are permitted the go ahead to go ahead and conduct outdoor dining.
I correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember that, but didn't we have a separate application if they wanted to plug in for electricity, or did it come automatically with the parklet?
It came automatically with the parklet.
We did not have a separate, you made that request, but that was not carried forward by your fellow council members.
Okay, that's fine. So then we have 10 parklets that can plug into the power.
Correct.
So we're talking a little bit less, more, over $300 a year for power currently.
Correct. And it is hard to say that all 10 are using. I know for a fact that at least one of them was barely given access earlier this year. So to say that all 10 have been using it since July is not fair to say, but 10 are allowed to, and they do have access to that combination lock for their electrical box.
But we need some more time to evaluate what the usage is over a period of time.
If that's something council would like to consider, then yes.
So we'd have to extrapolate that at some point in time moving forward.
And I think as the mayor pro tem pointed out, there are other people that have plugged in that we have to address as well. So it's a complicated issue, and
And I think it's important to note too, this was very much an onboarding year. We had to figure out the lock situation. We had to address people leaving their lights on all night. Some people were impatient and they plugged into the 24-hour electrical side of the outlet. As Councilman Friedendahl mentioned, we worked through the kinks very much this year, and we're hoping that next year it'll look a little more uniform and that people are very understanding of the rules and regulations for this program.
So if somebody legally plugs into that, can we find them?
we would issue them a citation and a correction before they are cited.
Okay, but you can still go through the process. So on page 447, it states of March 28, 2024, we had a discussion, was on the agenda. That's not correct.
2023, council member.
But it's the staff report says 2024. So that's
That's correct. There's an error on the year.
Okay. All right. Those are the only questions I have for the moment. Thanks.
All right, Michael. Gary?
What we're doing right now is not sustainable. And we've put ourselves in a position that if we don't start to make adjustments at some point down the road, either parklets are going to have to go away businesses are going to have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to keep them. Something has to give. Other cities, outdoor parking or outdoor dining permits can accumulate into the thousands of dollars a month. Okay, this is additional real estate that businesses are being allowed to use. We started at zero, which I think is part of our problem right now. I think we have to start the process of making adjustments, because if we don't, we are going to find ourselves in a position where 5 other people are going to be sitting up here wondering, what in the world did these guys do back in 2022? And so I think adjustments have to be made, but I think the adjustments have to be reasonable. And I definitely think that the parklet should be assessed at a different rate than what the just the outdoor dining is. So it's my.
Okay. All right. Well, we've all talked. David, sure.
In your observations, are we confident that the people using lighting are using the desirable lighting for best economy?
I would say that not all parklet users that are utilizing lighting are in compliance with the suggested LED lighting that is stated in the manual. I wouldn't say that all of them are, no. So that's something we could definitely look into and enforce.
An opportunity, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Well, I have is this considered a fee?
Yes.
So if it's a fee by law, what can we adjust it to?
Total cost of doing business. If the city wanted to include depreciation for those parklets, it could do that. Those are $500,000 in parklets. So whatever fee, if the city council wanted to move forward being increased, would definitely be statutorily allowed.
So we're not conditioned to COLAs or anything of that nature.
So as we have done fees here historically, we do not. So various lawsuits and case law and propositions that talk about government finance and fees basically talk about the cost of doing business. How the cost of doing business is factored can include staff time, depreciation of assets, cleaning, maintenance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what staff here has just provided you a general outline of some costs associated with those parklets. So I think we're clear on a number of areas where there could be concern over some of the electricity calculations, the lack of inclusion of staff. We didn't even talk about depreciation. As Councilmember Boyer mentioned, some cities basically charge for parking, so you have to offset the value of that parking in your parklet plus additional encroachment fees. We don't charge encroachment fees, that's separate. A normal business for being in the right of way would have to pay an encroachment fee. None of those are required or talked about here. So in terms of what we're allowed to charge, what the conversation the council has, if it wanted to increase the $100 and separate then the sidewalk vendors from the parklet vendors, any moderate increases that the council considers would definitely fall within the cost the city experiences to maintain and provide those parklets. And I think it's important to note they're exclusive use.
So we're basically, so we've eliminated the maintenance because it seems like we don't have an issue with the maintenance. We have an unknown issue with electricity usage because we really don't have a handle on that just as yet because we don't have longevity. We have folks that are probably using it, they shouldn't be using it.
Just to give you some idea, those parklets are $500,000. If you depreciated those over a 10-year period, it's $50,000 a year.
Sure, but where do we ever recuperate 100% of our fees? Our costs.
It's a council action on the strategic plan, council member, which you've requested that we recover 100% of fees in other areas.
But we haven't historically.
We're not going to come close to recovery.
Not even close.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's going to be a very,
It's just a
small fraction.
conversation that said we will recover a portion of the cost to administer this program.
I'm ready to make a motion. I'd like to move that we increase the fees to the users that are using the parklets to $400 a year, and the outdoor dining permit without parklets to $150 a year.
Okay.
All right. Is there a second? I will second that. discussion. So the motion is, parklet fees go to 400 a year. And outdoor dining goes to 150 a year. Am I saying that correctly?
If I may I ask a clarifying question before we continue? Is this to go into effect?
We
this
would have
next
to come
fiscal year?
back
Oh,
with a ordinance and, I mean, in a
Got
fee
it.
change resolution, yeah. So we wouldn't be looking at an effective date for the time we came back and read it effective at 30 days. We're looking
Probably 60
about
days.
60 days
Yeah.
before it would go into effect.
So you would be thinking then by doing so, you're gonna cover the cost of electricity within that because the base
I'm
fee.
thinking we're not covering squat.
Right. but you-
What we're doing is we're starting to set a precedent that if we do not recoup the cost of doing this, at some point it's going to go away. And what I don't want to see happen is I don't want to see somebody in the future having to make a decision that outdoor dining in the village has to go away because we can no longer afford to do it. So we're starting the process of at some point being able to at least make it feasible. But honestly, we're still just a very small fraction of what other cities are charging to do this.
And maybe just as a side note, in future budgets for the bid, maybe they could even have a line item where they kick down
Correct.
some money to help the city recoup
Correct.
some of that money back.
How
If
about,
they have a really successful event.
how about amending this? Because with what you're saying is that actually a good portion, a majority of the portion is gonna be for electricity, because it's gonna be well over $300 a year as calculated or extrapolated out. And then you're still gonna be less with less than $100 per the parklet. Because if you encapsulate both at $400, you're barely gonna pay for the electricity costs on an annual basis, as is extrapolated out once they get better
So
numbers.
basically what you're saying is it should be more.
No, I'm just saying that the way he's calculating it. it
Because the
might not
staff
cover-
report
It might
clearly-
not cover, if you split it up and left the $100 where it's at and actually pass through the actual cost of electricity, you're gonna be more accurate.
Mr. Mayor, can I just call for the vote?
Absolutely. The question's been called for. Please
I,
vote.
I have a clarification if I may.
Yeah,
And
sure.
this is not addressing any change in the maintenance process.
No,
That's
this
correct.
is strictly
Just,
just a
just,
fee.
yeah, just clarifying that.
This is a
Hey, you
big-
raised my rate, now you're gonna come clean my deck. That's not happening.
No, this is a baby step and a lot of steps that are going to have to take place over the next 10 years.
All right, the question has been called for, which demands a vote. So please vote. And the clerk will call an oral roll call, please.
Councilmember Elowitz,
No.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freno,
Yes.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay. All right.
Before we go on, do we need a motion to extend our time limit? We're going to hit 10:30.
Lorena, are you going to be that fast? 3 minutes? We probably, can we?
Okay.
Okay, quick. Item 12. Update on recruitments of city council appointed boards, commissions, recruitment for terms expiring on June 30th, 2024, and fill an unscheduled vacancy on the Glendora bid. Advisory Board Office Number 2 with a term expiring June 30th, 27.
All right, so good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to provide you an update with the 2024 City Council appointed board and commissions recruitment for scheduled and unscheduled vacancies. So in January, at the regular board meeting of the Business Improvement District Advisory Board, Don Nolan notified us pending sale of his restaurant and his resignation effective March 2024, creating an unscheduled vacancy. Staff conducted its annual recruitment review for the boards and commissions scheduled vacancies that are expiring June 30th, 2024, and the need to fill an unscheduled vacancy for the Business Improvement District Office Number 2 with an unscheduled term ending June 30th. Before you is a list of number of vacancies that we are trying to fill. We have 2 vacancies for the Board of Library Trustees and 1 vacancy for the Business Improvement District. At the close of the application deadline, staff received 4 applications and received 1 from Veronica Salazar after the deadline. If you can note, we received 3 applications for the Board of Library Trustees, to which 1 is a current incumbent, 2 applications for the Business Improvement District. All applicants do qualify. Before you is the May schedule calendar. If the May 14th does not work, please note that the last week of May are the high school graduates, to which council is a part of. So tonight, staff is recommending that the city council, 1, receive update, provide direction to staff on the late application submitted by Veronica Salazar for the Business Improvement District, and 2, confirm the city council availability for the special meeting for Tuesday, May 14th, to conduct interviews and appoint. So this concludes my report.
Okay, so what we're doing is extending the deadline to the person so named, and agreeing to assuming that the vote passed, agreeing to a Tuesday, May 14th interview date.
Correct.
That's what you're asking.
Yes.
There is a motion made by Michael, seconded by Karen. Please vote.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freno?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Great
There you go.
job, Lorena. Let me just be very quick and remind each other that we're closing our meeting tonight in honor of a very good friend of ours, passed away just recently, a member of Karen's church, Dan Wilshire. I believe his wife's name is Karen. Is that
Karen Cullen is his wife.
Karen Cullen? And so remember her and their family and friends in your prayers and thoughts. And we will close in honor of Dan and his service to all of us. With that, is there anything else that the council would like to opine on? If not, we will see you all tomorrow morning, bright and early at 7 o'clock at the Glendora Club for our Mayor's Prayer Breakfast. We are adjourned at 10:31.